Oh, there he goes.
Okay. Hey guys, it's Quillsniv again with a special stream. Today we have Nerd Wonder as per usual of the Holy Trinity of Quillsniv, the channel.
Hello.
With a special stream today and as a special guest we have Stillanerd, who is a former reviewer of ASM and Superior for the Spider-Man crawl space, and right now he writes articles for BamsMacPow about ASM.
Greetings, YouTube fans. How are you doing?
All 150 something.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, there you go.
And today, we have a special topic. After 10 years of writing Amazing Spider-Man, Dan, our boy Slott, has left the has read the franchise to write Iron Man, and in his place, was it Thursday that they announced this? Yeah,
I believe so. Yes.
It was announced that Nick Spencer is going to take over the title following his infamous Secret Empire saga, with Ryan Ottley of Invincible fame doing the artwork. So I figured it would be prudent to bring two very well-known Slott detractors onto the show and discuss this. So I guess we'll start off with you, Mike. What do you think about this?
Well, on the one hand, I mean, here's the thing about with Nick Spencer. I mean, I'm sure this is probably not the only thought that I've expressed this. Their thing is, you've got. I mean, I've seen this. Others have said the same thing. We're going to probably either get the Superior Foes of Spider-Man Nick Spencer, or Secret Empire Nick Spencer. So either one of those. So I'm kind of hoping that I kind of believe that we're going to get the Superior Foes version. But the thing about Nick Spencer coming on this, and I'm sure you, Quillsniv, or should I call you by your real name? But
I don't care. Nerd knows it. So
okay, right, okay. So well, I'm sure you've heard about the same. You saw the same rumors about this as I did, because I think there was rumored that Spencer was going to be taking over Amazing Spider-Man from Slott, at least as far back, I want to say, as like back when Secret Empire was first started. So that would have been like
back in, I want to say,
when it was ending. I think
like in no, it was like in August, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
around the time it was ending, right? Like we already knew he was going to be in it, and we were all rejoicing, weren't we? We were having parties and
I think it was, I wasn't quite sure exactly. I knew it was early. It was pretty early, you know, at least it was either Secret Empire was in the middle of the run or whatever it is. And at the time I was thinking, okay, I can see why they would do that. But at the same time, I was a little bit skeptical, because at that time, Secret Empire was becoming so toxic. And not just, and it didn't matter what political spectrum you were on. I mean, if you were
just piss people off in general.
Oh yeah.
At least we have to be happy that both the SJWs were at least on our side on this one.
Both the political left and the political right were just kind of really just raking this thing over to the coals. So at that point, when I was looking at this, I was thinking, okay, wait a minute, he's too toxic right now. Maybe they want to just kind of like hold him off. But it sounds like if he's still coming on, it sounded like it was already a done deal, regardless of what was going to happen with Secret Empire.
Yeah, I imagine Spencer had at least like a year's worth of stories planned up. He's probably got like a year's worth of stories for release written up by now. Because,
yeah.
I mean, when I'm writing Front of the Neighborhood, I usually have like 8 issues worth of space between finishing writing them up and releasing them to the public.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. You got. I mean, you've got to prepare this stuff up. I mean, the scripts, at least months in like a couple months in advance, and maybe in Spencer's case, he doesn't have a full notebook of stuff to work with, but yeah, it was one of those things. So I'm kind of imagining that so I'm expecting we're going to get maybe some decent stuff out of him. I mean, because having read a few of his stuff in the past, I do say that he is, to his credit, he is a very talented and very intelligent writer. When he needs to be. So I think, and since he is kind of familiar already with Spider-Man's world, given that he did write Superior Foes of Spider-Man, and that I can kind of expect a little bit more, something that's a little bit more character driven rather than this kind of the more plot driven narrative that we've been getting for the past 10 years. If,
yeah.
So, but yeah, it's, I mean, I think it's kind of high time that we actually, finally, that we did get a new guy on there, because let's face it, regardless of who was going to be on, regardless of who the writer is on a comic book, 10 years is, in my opinion, long. Yeah, it's way too long, especially with the publishing schedule of Amazing Spider-Man. It technically, you're talking about a book that was roughly about 20 years worth of comics, essentially, if you think about it, the way, because it was coming out on average about twice a month. So that's like, so yeah, so you had Dan Slott was writing double your average amount of comics every year.
Because like when Big Time first launched in 2010?
2010, yes.
So when Big Time first launched, they made the transition from 3 times a month for release to 2 times a month.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think they've been doing that like since that 3 times a month launch schedule since Brand New Day launched.
Right. Yeah.
Oh hell, my camera. Oh hell, my camera is not.
You were dying out. That was like the biggest issue, that they lost so much from what I heard. When One More Day hit, people dropped the book permanently. Their sales went in half. So the only way to keep it up was to make it 2 or 3 times a month. That was the only way, and they never fully recovered, is my issue. And so then they permanently put on Dan Slott, and he was on for 10 years, and he's gloating about it, but nobody likes him. The sales aren't going up. So obviously,
people do like Slott. He does have a dedicated fan base.
Oh, weird.
It's a very small fan base, but it's still a devoted one.
Yeah, I mean, and to keep in mind though, I mean, this is before he got on Amazing Spider-Man. There was actually people who were because when he was doing stuff like She-Hulk and what have you, people were thinking that he would be the ideal choice. But like anything else, whenever you get on a book like this, after a while, you're going to run out of steam. Especially, I mean, he arguably peaked right around Superior Spider-Man, and then after that, I don't think he ever. And it's pretty clear, I don't think he started running out of gas. But then
he started grabbing stuff that has already happened. But I have also noticed that like even Superior Spider-Man is stealing from previous Spider-Man.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean,
it's Craven's Last Hunt done too long, and with Dr. Octopus with perverted, weird like rape shit in there. So
yeah. I mean, when issue 700 came out,
people were pissed.
Well, I was because
on purpose.
Well, that's because Peter Parker just supposedly died like a chump in that, and even though I felt like Superior Spider-Man, I felt it did credit to build up Otto's character. Essentially, the whole plot is essentially, I mean, it is one big idiot plot. Literally, because everyone has to act like an idiot in order for this whole Freaky Friday thing to go on.
There's an established meme around that, the stupid pill.
The stupid pill, yeah.
And there's like people that make fan comics about how it obviously would have went down, and all I can think of is you could have had the biggest change to, but it's because he wanted to display Otto as a hero. But at the same time, he has displayed Otto as a crazy maniac, a torturer, a rapist, a sexual assaulter, and a pervert. So, and but he sets it up so this guy's a Mary Sue, like you must love. And it's like, no, you should have made him as a villain that doesn't understand why he can't be the hero. And then that would have been more enticing. And in fact, do a thing where Hope Summers or whoever reads his mind and knows he's Otto, but do something so evil that she can't say anything. Like, people know he's Otto, but are held to it that they can't say jack.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing, and the main thing about that, the thing is that I think the idea that he was going for was, okay, he's going to be acting like he's supposedly trying to be the hero now, but he's basically, his tactics are that of a villain essentially. But at that point, I do think that, yeah, it almost like, especially if you were like reading like Superior Spider-Man Team Up, which was coming around the same time, and I think who was that was writing that series? That was
I think it was it started out when the Superior Spider-Man transition happened. It was still Avenging Spider-Man, and it got during like, remember that when he got the new costume and got all the minions and stuff, that was when Superior Spider Month happened, and we got all the spin-offs like Superior Foes and Superior Team Up.
I'm just trying to remember. I think it was but I think it was Chris Yost who was writing that series, I believe.
He was basically the Future Foundation.
And I think Chris Yost actually, in my mind, I think he had a better handle on Otto Octavius as Spider-Man.
Everyone did.
And what we did, that what you were getting in Superior Spider-Man.
Dan Slott has created, everybody else has a better take on it, which is like Silk. He wrote her as a rapist in the first issues that she came in. She was so annoying. He wrote a whole entire storyline, which is based on the 90s cartoon, where he desecrates other creators' work through it all and tarnishes them and laughs. And then to make her the Mary Sue, and still nobody liked her. So he kicks her to the curb, and one guy picks her up.
Yeah, Robbie Thompson. Yeah,
he makes a small cult following that love her because he can write her well. But it's like,
I will willingly admit that I'm a loose follower of that following.
I would have been more accepting if they changed that stupid origin. Her origin is Mary Sue Town, and that's why she will never be fully accepted.
Oh yeah, I mean, when I was actually reviewing that issue when it first came out, I instantly thought, oh great. I mean, I flat out did say that she has all those hallmarks of being a Mary Sue, and it's, I mean, like, you just almost like you start ticking off the boxes, essentially.
Her last name. I remember that list like vividly. You mentioned, her last name is Moon.
Yeah, her last name is Moon, and if
that's right.
And basically, and also I added too with the fact that Cindy is for short for Cynthia, which is itself a derivative of Moon. So her name is actually Moon.
Damn it,
Moon Girl. The signs were there since 2014.
Yep.
Dude, then again, it's like, but I've realized that most of the time that they're making Korean characters or something, they're always like somewhere in them it has the name Moon in there, and I'm like, are you for real? Are you dumb?
Well, I mean, and I think the thing is about like I think, because a lot of these characters that I think that Slott came up with, I mean, the only ones that it really to me were kind of like felt like they were really stuck around. One was Mr. Negative.
And even then he kind of just faded off to the side until Slott deemed him worthy of returning.
Well, yeah, but he's also going to be in the new video game. So, I mean, Slott's going to get his,
the video games tend to understand everybody understands the character better than Slott. It seems more like Slott was told to make a character, and he did, but he didn't understand how to do it, because I was told that Cindy was only created because the editors wanted a new.
Well, she was tied. Well, she would forget she was tied into that whole original Sin event where everyone was like, here's,
Well, that's still editorial telling Slott, you got to step in here and chip in.
Yeah.
It's everybody but Cindy Moon, I think Spike was part of that. He was there when they were making Cindy Moon, and he knew what was really going on. They wanted a diversity character or something like that. And
I'm going to willingly admit that when I was drafting Friendly Neighborhood, like when I was first sketching out, and Mike has seen like the initial pitch I made in the staff Facebook page, but I was like, okay, so there's not going to be any original characters, because whenever someone makes an original character, it usually sucks until someone else takes up the reins. And then on Superior, I remember pitching this again in the Crawl Space staff page, that the problem with Superior is that originally, like the first 10 or so issues, you could have seen Otto blending himself in successfully as Peter, but once you get into like the new costume with the backpack and the legs, for some reason, that's when the writing goes off the rails and makes him like a full cartoon villain.
Well, yeah,
like
and
he becomes like noticeably more like, how he makes like those speeches as Dr. Octopus, like they became noticeably more apparent, like the problem is that he speaks like a villain. Like, it would have been cool to see him like speaking as Peter Parker, like trying to masquerade as Peter instead of just being an open like caricature of Dr. Octopus. But in his mind, he's thinking like Dr. Octopus.
Well,
reminding us that he's still there.
See, now when the thing is, when Spirit of Spider-Man happened, it was like, and even before it was revealed to be that Dr. Octopus was taking over, I initially didn't think it was going to happen, because to me, Dr. Octopus is a character who is so driven by his ego and is so a megalomaniac. And why would he pretend to be somebody else? Even if he was dying, I mean, he had other options.
Yeah, that comes into clone conspiracy. That even leaks into clone conspiracy, because when he takes the proto clone that doesn't have any cellular degeneration, like he's still modeled after half of Peter Parker. But why?
Well, I mean, I think it could be like, again, if he was, maybe he kind of figured he was like, oh, I can. Well, he's now less susceptible to damage or whatever. But to me, I figured, my mind was thinking, well, the premise, that was one of the reasons why I think the initial premise didn't quite work, is because Otto is such a character who is defined by a superiority complex, if pardon the pun, that he's not somebody that he is not someone who would want to pretend to be someone else. He's not like the chameleon whose whole stick is, I'm going to pretend to be someone, basically pretend to be another person and see how far I can get away with it. That's not Otto. Otto is a guy who literally has to put his name, who has to put his signature on everything. Even when you're looking at, you're going through Superior, I mean, he is still doing his whole signature Dr. Octopus kind of stuff. And the problem is that nobody was kind of seemed to be putting two together. Oh, except of course Carly Cooper, because she's perfect.
And I think you mentioned this one. Who was it who was reviewing Superior when it first came out?
I think it was either was
it Eric?
It might have been. It was either him, or if I think it was the guy.
Donovan. It was Donovan.
Donovan. I would say Donovan or Crazy Chris, one or the other.
I think it was both. But like, they mentioned in there that Otto was spurging out because he was having to register Peter's inventions, his inventions as Peter's. That was a good idea to explore, but it's dropped. It's dropped as soon as it's mentioned.
Well, yeah, and by the time I got to sort of reviewing on the series,
you started on 25, right?
Right when they had this, when you get the Superior Venom thing.
Yeah, that wasn't a good issue to come in on.
Well, no, I mean, it was kind of, because it was coming in on the tail end of the series there. And I think that was probably around the time where I kind of started seeing, I mean, even though I kind of started liking some things, the way in which Superior ended was just like
asshole.
Which was just like a complete, fart in the wind practically. But it was one of those things where that's when by the time we got to about the third volume, that's where you kind of started seeing, oh, he's starting to run on a gas here. By the time he got to about maybe Spider-Verse, where you have every single Spider-Man ever, that's when you really
friends.
Yeah, and that's the part where you're thinking, okay. So
now he's just doing this for shits and giggles.
Now he's just pulling from the 90s animated series, and that's when you're going to go, okay, we're kind of hitting he's pretty much getting close to done here, because even if he says he's not admitting it, it's you started to feel it.
That makes me wonder how long Spencer's going to be on the title, because I mentioned earlier in the stream that he's probably got at least a year's worth of stories lined up, because Spider-Man's the flagship title.
On your average, in my experience reading comics, the average run, if you want to have a good run, like, it's usually, to me, whatever, I don't know why it is, it's usually about 3 to 4 years. After you get back, after that 4-year mark, that's when you start seeing things. You start seeing themes being recycled, character concepts being recycled, and over. I mean, even if you look at stuff like Chris Claremont, who was on Uncanny X-Men for like
ever
17 years practically, to the point where he literally defined the entire X-Men as we know them today. Even that point, you start thinking, okay, there comes a point where you're thinking, okay, you're kind of reusing similar concepts, and there comes a time where you have to, where as much where you kind of think that these guys have to like have to kind of not give up, but move on to something else, move on to another character, or let go of the reins and pass it on, because there's only so much, because there's only so much, especially if you're under a format like I said, this where you're
like a monthly comic where
but more than monthly in this case of Amazing Spider-Man. You're the ideal. Well, you only have so much ideas that you have for this character, and after that, you need to pass it on to somebody else who may have a fresher perspective. And I think what the thing with Slott is, I think he genuinely came out. I think he had it with a lot of enthusiasm for it initially, but you could totally see that the well was dry, and that the only reason, and I think he practically almost kind of admitted this, the only reason he really stayed on the book for as long as he did was because he wanted to reach that milestone of issue 800.
Yeah, I think there was also
that he is going to be the longest running one, but they usually editorial and junk would kick you out beforehand. Like they never let anybody stay as long. Like apparently DeFalco was kicked off. Several people were kicked off when they were reaching the 10-year mark, because they're like, that means that you have tenure. We're not allowing that. But they allow it for Slott, who is lost his steam fast. Everybody knew it. Nobody likes his stories. This is ridiculous. So obviously, I think they but then again, I look at their talent pool, and I realize you had nobody. That's the reason he's not. You know it. We all know it. You guys are failing. You will not accept that you fucked up. You will never accept that, which is fine, because I'm watching you kind of fall into the quicksand further and further, and one day you're gonna start screaming.
Well, and I think that goes to that is kind of
they did.
And that is a larger point that also kind of ties in with Spencer, because there was when I was looking at the forum reaction to this, one person actually made an interesting comment that why would they keep Slott on for so long, and also why would you keep Spencer assigned the book? It's because the talent pool is probably so small. It's smaller than
So let's go over the big names they've got. They've got Slott, kind of. He's more like, he works better with like smaller titles. Like Avengers: The Initiative was a fantastic read until Gage took over.
Yeah.
They've got Mark Waid, who started bleeding in terms of like how great of a writer he is.
Yeah.
Champions is meh, and Avengers is just absolutely bland, and it's just kind of treading water until it reaches that milestone.
Right.
And then Jason,
which I think he's still. I think for all important purposes, Jason Aaron is still kind of. He at least has like a strong in terms of like he had it actually he had a longer narrative, so he did actually have a plan. Working on Thor a little bit, what he was doing,
and he's still writing after Fresh Start. He's
still
Fresh Start.
I mean, especially, I didn't read some of the Mighty Thor stuff when Jane Foster kind of came on, but I read some of his God Butcher stuff, which I thought was hey, this is actually pretty good.
He's a definite step up. He's a definite step up from Fraction.
Yeah, and if you read that stuff, and if you read that early stuff from Thor, you can tell that he actually had, especially when you're looking at the past version of Thor and also the future. So he had a vision of where he was going to go with all this. So there's credit to him for that. But yeah,
I'll be right back. Just mute my microphone really quick.
Okay,
yeah.
But
who else? We got, I guess Spencer's more infamous now because of Secret Empire. His name is a tainted one.
Exactly. And that's what I think is a little bit, and maybe they can if Marvel can try to court on the idea of like, hey, this guy, this is the guy who wrote in Secret Empire. You never know what you're going to get with Amazing Spider-Man, and kind of play on the controversy angle. But the other thing, you also have got, I don't know who else would be like Kelly Sue. Well,
Conway? No, Kelly Sue DeConnick left.
She did. Okay.
Yeah,
I thought
she's writing Bitch Planet for Image, I think.
Okay, I didn't know if she was still on Captain Marvel or not.
Yeah, she and Matt Fraction left.
Okay, what else would be there on there?
I mean,
they're trying to build up Daniel Rosen. They're trying to build up Daniel Rosen. Is it Daniel Rosenberg? Yeah,
they're trying to build up Rosenberg and Taylor.
Yeah,
because I'm liking All New Wolverine, but not enough to like buy it. And I'm liking. I don't like X-Men Red. I'm gonna be honest. I know Sean is liking it, but I'm just not digging it.
Well, X-Men, whole X-Men line, that's a whole other can of worms.
I did a bit of digging into the titles post Legacy. Post Legacy, X-Men has 22 titles in the
Really?
in that editorial line.
Oh wow. Okay.
So-
Because you're counting because yeah, you got Astonishing.
I'm counting the team books, X-Men Gold, Blue, and Red, and then the solo titles. You got Rogue and Gambit, which is admittedly a mini series.
That's a mini series, right?
You got Cable, which has already been canceled.
Okay.
You got
Deadpool. There's a couple Deadpool titles actually.
There's
you got
3.
Spider-Man. Yeah, you got Spider-Man, Deadpool, and then you had there's another one out.
I think
now?
so.
Okay.
I was thinking of Mercs for Money. That's been long dead.
Yeah. But
and then you've got I want to say
there's
Iceman.
Iceman's canceled too.
Yeah.
Jean Grey was going, but that was replaced. That's what X-Men Red replaced.
Yeah. And then you got All New Wolverine. That's still too many titles for a single. Like, remember when there was like 5 different Spider titles going on at once? It's eerily reminiscent of like, remember like back when Peter was just getting back into the costume after Superior, they had like an entire slew of Spider titles.
Oh yeah.
And the crawl space, it was a good 5 months for the crawl space after Spider-Verse because we had so much content going on.
Well, see, that was the problem that we had, I think, with Spider-Verse, and why is that even though the idea was supposed to be, okay, we're just going to kill off all these superfluous spiders, you still had all these Spider-Man variants. And by doing that, you're just kind of diluting
the pool.
You're diluting Spider-Man as a character. When you got too many, it's not like Spider-Man's Green Lantern, where you got everybody have like virtually the same powers and everything.
And even then, there's only 2 Green Lantern titles. You got Hal and Pals, and you got Simon and Jess.
Sure, yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. And I think that's the problem. I think this is always a problem that I usually have with towards the legacy characters. I mean, where you basically when you try to put the costume, when you try to give somebody else the same costume and powers and expect the same results, it doesn't always happen because people gravitate toward who the character is underneath underneath that costume and those powers, not to mention
they just absolutely shit on the original hero, like Riri just.
Yeah, that
disrespects Tony in every possible way.
I think that's to me was the biggest problem when you're going into whatever relaunch this was. I think it was all new, all different. Was it? Yeah. Or was Marvel 2.0? Excuse me. Who can keep track of Marvel's? Who can keep track of Marvel's relaunches, right? That was to me the biggest problem with Marvel 2.0. It's not so much that because legacy characters that concept has been around forever in comics.
And there's been amazing legacy characters. Like Wally West is by definition a legacy character.
Oh sure, absolutely. I mean, or Jim Rhodey's also a legacy character in a sense because he was Iron Man for a while.
He's been Iron Man multiple times because
exactly.
Just after Iron Man got kicked out of the Avengers, War Machine became Iron Man and joined, and then like just after Heroic Age launched, after Fractions run ended, Rhodey became Iron Man again.
Yeah, I mean, so it's not so much the idea. To me, the problem with Marvel's recent when they try to go into this legacy, not legacy the thing, but when they went into Marvel 2.0, the problem they ran into wasn't so much that they were introducing new legacy replacement heroes. It's that they gave the impression to their readers that that these new characters were morally superior to the originals. And that's, I think, what's kind of, to me, that's kind of what upset people, because they kind of implied that if you don't like these new characters, then there's something wrong with you. Like, you shouldn't be liking these classic. I mean, and that's the thing, that over systematically time, they were kind of diminishing the originals, like characters, like especially when it came to Captain America, when it came to Steve Rogers. So that, I think, is what really upset and angered people the most, is the idea that they were essentially told that you must like these new characters because they are, better, quote unquote, than the ones that came before it. They weren't exactly, and so that's why when you had this legacy push, that's why they kept trying to say that, and especially when Generations came out, that's when they were also, you got the message was, hey, we can have room for both, kind of thing. But we're, a little bit damage control of that, if that makes sense. And I don't know if you're still here, Neil.
There we go. Hang on. There we go.
Yeah.
I think that was why I wasn't picking up because I wanted to make a point. It's like that's dumb because for some of these characters I've loved them for years. Like I love when Remender wrote Sam Cap, I loved his take on it, but Spencer would just use it to divide people rather than unite them.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Sam Wilson as Captain America
has
think about it. Yeah, it's the most logical outcome for if you were going to basically retire Steve Rogers, having Sam Wilson pick up the mantle, it makes perfect sense.
But there was some weird choices in what was it Avengers Now? Like I wasn't fond of Jane Foster becoming Thor, and in retrospect, I didn't know it at the time because I didn't pick up the Thor line. But like having read Catherine Immonen's Journey into Mystery, Sif would have been a far more logical choice to become Thor, given that she has a connection to Thor and would shit on him regularly.
Well, I can understand why Jane Foster, Jason Aaron decided to make Jane Foster Thor because. If you're looking, since most people are probably these days are familiar with Thor from the movies, and Jane Foster was initially kind of like the main love interest in those, I can kind of see why he went with that direction rather than Sif. But yeah, if you're looking at it in terms of a comic book fan perspective, maybe Sif would have been an ideal choice. But
like when Kate Bishop became Hawkeye, like this was like during Young Avengers.
Yeah, right.
Like when Clint was still Ronin, their relationship had foundation, and he taught her to become the new Hawkeye. And though he did become Hawkeye again during Heroic Age, which I thought was kind of a regression from the Ronin identity.
Yeah,
they still had a dynamic that made them likable as a team rather than just. But when what was it, Young Avengers, the Gillen run, it shit on Clint, or just a bunch of writers shit on Clint to make Kate the real Hawkeye.
Right. Yeah. I mean. And I think I don't think it did any favors with the fact that he killed Bruce Banner. Although the Hulk's now better now because
gotta have that classic character back in time for a movie.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean the whole idea with trying to kill off the original Hulk itself was Civil War 2 was just a complete mess anyway.
Yeah. Ben, I don't think Bendis cared who was doing what, just as long as he had someone to do it with.
Well, yeah, right. The only reason that series existed at all was try to tie into Captain America. Was by try to promote Captain America Civil War. But the problem with the whole series is, I mean, if you go back and read the original Civil War, which to me, in my mind, I almost kind of like consider to be almost political satire. By Mark Millar, but aside from that, the whole issue about whether or not the registering superheroes or conscripting them essentially for service, that was actually came across as especially if you look at
an intriguing concept.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you look at the movie that came out. I mean, there was some people you could actually have some legitimate discussion. Whereas this one, where Civil War 2, where you're basically essentially cribbing Minority Report, there was nobody was debate. There was no debate there. I mean, everybody's automatically gonna assume like, yeah, why in the world would you basically prosecute people for crimes they haven't committed yet? I mean, everyone kind of was siding automatically with Tony Stark.
And even then, the problem with Civil War 2 is that Civil War 1 at least impacted the entire Marvel Universe in an organic way because it affected everyone. Spider-Man, the Young Avengers, the Fantastic Four, even though they were already public superheroes.
Right.
But with Civil War 2, no one really has any stake in this except for Captain Marvel and Iron Man.
Right. Oh, and don't forget the Inhumans, because remember, they were still trying to push Inhumans as kind of like the X-Men,
replacements.
2.0. Yeah, because they couldn't, because again, film rights.
Ike Perlmutter. I'm more angry at Ike Perlmutter than I am with Alonzo because that's what they had to work with.
Right. I mean, yeah, and I think, and especially if you hear the notorious stories, the stories that come out of the Marvel offices and how they've sort of, in terms of the business practices, they're like,
Oh, it's an absolute shit show.
yeah, exactly. I mean, but again, with Axel Alonso, I mean, since he's the editor in chief, there's a reason. I mean, there's a reason
he still lets it by.
Well, yeah, he still's got to approve all this stuff, and it's pretty obvious that the guy was, even though they didn't quite say it, it was pretty obvious he got fired because he got to the point where he was actually costing the publishing wing money.
And he's costing them reputation because he let so much crap fly by, even though it's his job to not let it fly by.
Exactly. I mean, it's kind of almost similar to what happened with, what was it? Bob Harris, essentially. Because, I mean, Bob, who's now, interestingly enough, was working with DC, because Bob Harris was, I believe when he was editor-in-chief way back in the 1990s, he was also let go for similar reasons. Because he was because at the time, I think it was because prior to Bill Jamis and Joe Quesada coming on, Marvel was in even worse shape than it is now in terms of the publishing thing, because that was the part where they were filing Chapter 11, and that's why.
Oh yeah, like just before Perlmutter stepped in and saved them.
Yeah, that's why you had all those. Why we have today, people wonder why you have all these crazy movie deals. Is because at the time they were selling them off to various. They were selling the IPs off to various studios in order. That's so they could recoup the profits. That's why you had the weird thing today with you had like 20th. With 20th Century Fox still owns the X-Men rights, even though Marvel still partially owns the characters, and same with the thing with Sony and that's why you can't get a
nice thing.
Well, no, that's why you can't get a solo Incredible Hulk film now,
because Universal has the distribution rights. Yeah,
exactly. Even though Hulk can now appear in Avengers films, and they can't do it. After Disney acquired him, and you can't. They could. Part of the thing was you can't do another solo Hulk film after the Incredible Hulk, because Universal has those things. So yeah. And also, I think the same thing, the deal where they got with Fox now, however that's going to work in terms of how they're going to try to, if they can kind of bring in characters from the Fantastic Four or X-Men in there, who knows? That's going to take a while.
And that also raises questions about how far into the MCU have these guys planned out because even with Infinity War on the horizon, there's at least been some slight buildup. As much as I don't like to admit it, there's been a good deal of buildup. They've got the Guardians of the Galaxy on the cosmic side. They've got good buildup up until Age of Ultron with the Infinity Stones.
Oh sure, yeah, and if you're talking about, and I think to me, if at the way this thing is structured, I think you could easily bring in the Fantastic Four and make them and do them right. With the way the current Marvel cinematic universe is set up, the more difficult thing
it all matters if they can get the rights.
Yeah, well, they do have. Well, the way it's structured now, it's very complicated. Yeah, the problem would be, to me, in my mind, is X-Men trying to bring them in because
they're so far in that it'll be hard to integrate them into a universe.
Exactly.
There's never been an established mutant.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's one of these. It's kind of weird to me, but X-Men is always one of those. It's one of those IPs that kind of almost works by itself, rather than to try to integrate it into the Marvel universe proper. And I mean, so yeah, it's just going to be interesting to see how they're going to handle it over the years down the road, because again, since after Avengers 4 is when all the six major guys are going to their contracts expire, and I don't think they've expressed interest in coming back to do future films.
I mean, Chris Evans has. Well, there's a couple that have slight interest. I've heard Chris Evans is kind of sad to go, but he doesn't have an especially vivid obsession with coming back.
Well, no, because Chris Evans for years he's been talking about going into directing.
Yeah. And then you mentioned in the what was it was it the Slot Leaving podcast you did with Crawl Space that Chris Hemsworth? No, it was in a D&D session we did that Chris Hemsworth was tired of playing Thor.
Yeah, because I mean, and I think because it's one of those things where, it's one of those things where at that point, if you look at Thor Ragnarok, where does Thor as a character go anyway? I mean, he's pretty much essentially as soon as he's already king of the Asgardian things, and if there's once all this stuff with Infinity War and whatever happens in Infinity War Part 2, if that's what we're going to call the fourth Avengers film, once that's over, he'll set up his new Valhalla on Earth, and that'll be it. There's no reason for him to continue showing up in these. He'll probably could show up in these movies once in a while as a cameo, but other than that,
good because
exactly.
When Phase 1 first launched, we didn't have we had to get the A-listers because that was all people knew. People knew of Thor, but not in the same way we know him now. He was still like a B-lister.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But now that he's like a big mega pop culture icon, they have to start using older characters, and that's one of the reasons I want the Fox deal to fail, because that means they'll just have easy access to Wolverine and make more films. But like, imagine what we could get if we got like a Beta Ray Bill space opera or a Sam and Rich Nova buddy cop movie.
Right.
There's so much more genre to explore, and the risk of these major iconic characters coming back is that we're not going to be able to explore them. Because like Doctor Strange is a genuine risk to take. No one knows who Doctor Strange is until a movie comes out.
Right. Yeah. And also jumping on that point, I mean, if you're going to basically retire the current roster of Avengers, it's like Cap, like if you with Chris Evans, and especially if you get Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Hemsworth and Scarlett Johansson, all those guys. If you're going to try to basically do any kind of future Avengers thing, they've already kind of built it up. So you've got Doctor Strange, Black Panther, and maybe they're crossing fingers about Captain Marvel coming in too.
Well, I mean,
that's your new big three right there.
Yeah, I'd argue that they've already got like an entire new Avengers roster set up.
Sure. Oh yeah.
Considering the Winter Soldier is pretty much now, they're kind of implying that he's going to be Captain America, especially the times he gets Cap's shield in Civil War.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's going to come. That's going to happen.
They've got a pretty solid roster lineup for afterwards. I'm just worried that we're not going to get as many previous unknowns, because everyone's clamoring about like, oh, Black Panther is like a revolution of filmmaking. You didn't know about him until a film was being made.
Right.
Don't complain about
and not to mention that Black Panther was technically not the first Marvel superhero movie with an African American lead. Or because
Terrence Howard was technically the main character of the first Iron Man movie.
Well, no, you go back farther with the Blade, which arguably actually kicked off the whole new comic book movie renaissance. Especially because you had three,
three.
Yeah, three of those things. Yeah, I mean, they're not connected because they were owned by New Line, but that's the one that to me was kind of the weird. That to me is kind of the weird thing about that, is because Blade is actually like, he does that whole film franchise. I mean, granted, Blade Trinity was just awful,
weird,
but the first two were really good, and it's amazing how those two films, they don't get as much credit as they do in terms of resurging like people's interest in comic book movies. Because I would they arguably kicked off this new renaissance that we're in. I mean, some people say that it was the first X-Men movie and Spider-Man, but yeah, you got to include Blade in there too. And
yeah, he was definitely important. And we can't. And people say like, oh, it's the first superhero movie with a majority black cast. Y'all haven't seen Meteor Man or Steel.
Well, yeah, no one wants to see Meteor Man or Steel. That's the thing.
I'm just saying it's kind of I'm just saying it's misleading to say that Black Panther is the first to do it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. But I mean, but in a sense that it is also a good superhero film, I would argue. I mean, there are certain things I wouldn't say it's like it's not perfect. No. I definitely think it's up there. I mean, but there are definitely I did write up a ranking list, I think, on Bam Smack Pow in terms of like how I rank these things. I still think Winter Soldier is like
the best.
Is the best. And then you got the Guardians of the Galaxy films, At least the first one in my mind is also. I mean, they're definitely. I mean, because those are the two. Those are. I mean, that was were the two ones that are really kind of really good as well.
I'm going to be one of those guys and say that Ant-Man was a good film. Because
it was. I think it would have been better if they I think it would have been better if Edgar Wright was still part of the project. If he was actually if he was the director, because you could totally tell if you watch that film and knowing how Edgar Wright's style, his stylistic things, you can see elements of that in there. And I think it would have been amazing if he was still director on that film.
The problem I have with Edgar Wright is that he took way too long to get his project off the ground. Like he delayed it so long that because Ant-Man and Wasp were supposed to be in the first Avengers movie, but he delayed it so that he could do what he wanted, and that ultimately screwed up a lot of elements in the MCU that they haven't really recovered from. Yeah,
I mean that's true. I mean, but
Peyton Reed's definitely company man.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh sure, he is. I mean, and plus, anyway, also, Paul Reed anyway is he's actually really good too. I mean, especially since he was actually, I don't think he was credited, but he actually supported the first Ant-Man film. He was actually
responsible for a lot of Scott's dialogue. Yeah,
exactly. He was all because he has some talent as a comedic screenwriter and something like that. So I'm kind of hoping that when Ant-Man and Wasp do come out later, that we get some of that, get more of that, because it looks like it's going to be a blast anyway, based on the trailer. But who knows?
I'm honestly more excited for Ant-Man and the Wasp than I am for Infinity War, because I noticed I mentioned earlier that there was a good amount of build-up to Infinity War, but there hasn't been enough to establish Thanos as a credible threat. We've heard about how destructive he is, but we haven't really seen him in action. There's been no real build-up to his invasion of Earth to look for the Infinity Stones.
Right. I mean, that is definitely a problem in terms of just moviegoers. I mean, comic book fans know how. I mean, if anyone's followed, read the comics, we know
how dangerous Thanos is.
Thanos really is, yeah. But I think, there is something to that. The fact that it's taken 10 years to build up to this. I mean.
And nothing has really amounted to it.
Well, again, you're trying to hold. I mean, again, it's one of these things like, oh, Thanos is a big threat. Thanos is a big threat, and like you said, it's like, well, we have to kind of see how that much of a
show don't tell. You're in a vision.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
what also worries me is that they're gonna just kill him off, because one of the important parts of Infinity War is not that Thanos is defeated, but how he's punished.
Sure,
because he's put at the end. He's put on that farm with Drax watching over him.
Right,
that's important, because his initial goal was to please Death and court her, but his punishment was to understand the meaning of life.
Yeah, exactly.
That's an important thematic element that I'm worried the MCU is not going to focus on.
That they're not going to do. Yeah, I mean,
they're just going to make him a generic punch villain.
Well, like I was telling you when I was telling you during our session, I kind of think the way, since they're not going to try to bring the physical, the manifestation of death into this film, because that'd be just, for the average moviegoer, that'd be just too complex for them to grasp.
Hey, nerd.
Hello.
Yeah,
getting some feedback echoes in your mic.
Me?
Okay.
Oh no, it's gone now. It was just a temporary thing.
But yeah, to go back to my point, I don't think that the way there probably looks like it's going to be structured is that Thanos' goal is they won't go the full board. Oh, I'm trying to court death and blah, blah, blah. It would be one of these things where it's going to be more like he's trying to get the Infinity Gauntlet to use it as a kind of population control. To basically just like, we got to, there's.
So he was a space Nazi.
Yeah, that he's basically like, okay, well, they'll still do the whole, I'm sure they're going to still do the thing where he kind of tries to eliminate half of the universe. Because because if you watch that trailer, he does talk about putting the universe in balance.
I just think it loses a lot more of its thematic importance if it doesn't have, like, if it's just being the Empire from Star Wars, and that's actually
yeah,
because the two franchises are showing a lot more in common than they used to, and that's a bad thing.
Oh yeah,
that's like Did you see Star Wars and start? I'm sorry, I came in late, so I don't know if this was already touched upon, but did you go into Star Wars and think, oh God, they're trying to be a Marvel movie?
They're quipping.
Oh, a little bit, yeah.
With the rocks flying, with the nun things, I was just sitting there like, oh god, that's Star Wars.
Well, there's
I mean,
actually
that's Marvel. I mean,
there was actually a YouTube video that I did see, and I think I can't for the life of me remember who.
It's probably Mahler.
Well, no. It was actually it's a YouTube channel where the guy goes into film criticism and basically analyzes different aspects about film. And one of the things he touched on was I think it was actually he was doing an examination of Wonder Woman, and he was versing some of the Marvel films, and how essentially because he was talking about the concept of bathos, which is essentially that you're taking something that's essentially seems like it's dramatic, and then you throw in a joke about it, like you kind of downplay it.
Yeah, like Doctor Strange, I feel like had the biggest problem with that because he's supposed to be like a typically very strict character with a very calm and mature demeanor, and you got him quipping left and right, and that ultimately made Spider-Man: Homecoming a lot less important for me because when everybody's cracking jokes and quipping when that's Spider-Man's gimmick, then he loses a lot of his own gimmick. Own gimmick.
Oh yeah.
What are they gonna do? Like, also, did you know? Like, was he quipping a lot in that movie? It almost seemed like
not really.
He was more of young and innocent kid. It was like, but he also quips a lot. But I think it's just that because they already have the quippers, they had to take that away.
I think the line of dialogue I heard him say the most in that movie was "Whoa."
Yeah, I mean it's but again, it's one of those things like you said, it's like you're taking elements like. Because they're almost like, and that was another thing I had issue with Thor Ragnarok. Is like you have situations in there where you have the literal destruction of their home, and we got to throw in some more jokes. It's like there's sports like again he loses his dad. Oh, we got to throw in a little joke in there, or it's like things are things like they feel like they kind of have to throw in some humor in there, but it's almost like too much. Like it's one of those things where they kind of overplay it. In other words, sometimes, so
that kind of bleeds back into the comics where like they've become a lot more jokey recently. Like they treat their villains like jokes. They treat everything around them like jokes.
Well, it's kind of a Josh Whedon effect. Like ever since Avengers, which became so successful that I think the mentality was, we got to make every film like the Avengers and have that kind. Because Josh Whedon kind of has like that same kind of style.
He's not part of them anymore, which is like
I know, but the mentality is that because Avengers was such a big blockbuster $1 billion hit and everything, they figure like the mentality is. We got to make all of the films like that because
but it's like they put him on the second Avengers, and the second Avengers sucked. So it's you guys want to not like was Winter Soldier like that? Because like I saw Winter Soldier, and that was phenomenal. Like
absolutely it was. That's why I'm confident with the Russo brothers in terms of like in this upcoming thing because not only do they know how to do action well. And do it in a realistic fashion. They also know, thanks to what happened with Civil War, they know how to handle multiple characters and give them equal time.
Yeah, and they're the ones that started the Spider-Man stuff, and I think they'll be able to wield him way better than anybody else could.
Oh yeah, although there's on the podcast we do have a guy who's kind of grumbling about the Iron Spider suit.
They gotta put it in once.
They do. I know.
Just let it happen, and then we'll never get to see it when he goes to college.
It's one of these things that the main complaint I do have about the current Spider-Man is he's too much like he's almost like become too much of Tony Stark's Robin. Essentially, that he's gotten too much to the point where he feels like, I'm like almost like Iron Man Jr. basically. Essentially, but I understand why they did it, but it kind of loses something of it. But
Okay, there we go. I'm gonna shit on George for a minute here because I love him, but he is notoriously purist in terms of what he likes in terms of his villains.
Well, he grew up. He grew up in I think he's kind of similar to JR in the sense that they've been there since the beginning. Well, they're one of those guys who are like there's a certain level when it comes to comic book fans who are definitely that it's almost like with any kind of like literature, like if you talking about like book adaptations, there are those who feel like, oh no, it has to be exactly like it is in the book, otherwise the movie sucks. Yeah, and it's kind of
I don't mean to be like shit. I don't want to shit on George. It's just something I've noticed about him is that he's notoriously purist when it comes to what he wants in his Spider-Man stuff.
Oh, sure. I mean, if you're a Spider-Man, I mean, everybody does. If you have like a favorite character, like you don't
want to die. You don't want them to get changed up.
It's like I get it. Iron Spider was it was interesting when it came out, but now it's like. I mean, like Spider-Man's had better days, but at the same time, I'm willing for it to happen. I'm more accepting of this and whatever, but it depends on how they write the story. Everybody is once again screaming, "I wonder who's gonna die," and I'm like, they've already proven, and so I'm just gonna say this: they've already proven in Civil War they don't need to kill off anybody to make a good story. Like it was really funny. Because if you notice in Civil War 2, they pretty much reveal, like if you read the information of the making of it or whatever, they were pretty much thinking the first thing we have to do to make it a really good Civil War 2 is to kill off as many characters as we can. It became Russian roulette with a gun, suggesting who should live and who should die. And it was like, are you stupid? And then pretty much the film crew's like, you don't technically need to kill anybody to make a good story. You just
I mean, the problem is that War Machine is still dead, and there's no sign of him ever returning right now. I know he's going to return eventually.
That's the problem I think with the Adventures in general. If you're going into the mentality of like, oh, we have to kill a character off, nobody in their right mind knows that thinks that character is going to stay dead. Because it's a false cheap attempt at drama, because you already know the way comic books work is like, if the character is popular enough, they're gonna bring him back within a couple years or 4 or something. Like for instance, like the thing is what happened with Wolverine. I mean, with the death of Wolverine, they made a big deal about that. It's like, you know what? We know he's coming back. We know he's gonna come back eventually. Yeah. He came back as Old Man Logan. He came technically before that, and now we're bringing back the original Wolverine too. So it's just like, but that's the thing I think what kind of frustrates people partly about event fatigue is whenever you promise, oh, we're going to kill a character off, that character is not going to stay dead. It's not going to be like back in the olden days where you had like the original Captain Marvel die of cancer and they're not bringing him back. It's one of these things where some of these characters are so popular now, there's no way their deaths are going to stick.
Yeah, but at the same time, like even if they do kill him off, it's usually like half-assed. Like I don't think they're ever going to bring back Rhodey, because to them they don't think he's big enough, and so they replace him with another character that automatically who he should have been, because it's obvious he should have been Iron Man, and it would have been the best story ever, because it would have been a bunch of people laughing at him going, haha, you're not Tony Stark, you're stupid, you're not smart like him, how could you ever beat me and stuff. And they'd be like, I have war tactics and whatever, and he beat.
I think they even did that like when he first became Iron Man in like 85 or something.
Right. I mean, and which is also where the other thing too is like keeping Rhodey dead in the comics. Especially when you have like he has a bigger profile now thanks to this Marvel Studios films, so it's kind of weird. So this whole idea, like if you wanted to really attract like some new readers to your comics, why in the world are you making it so that you don't make them familiar to new readers? Because that's the thing. Yeah, it's like that. I mean, those are the characters. I mean, you have a greater exposure now to who these characters are than ever before, and yet and then you wonder why your comics are not exactly selling.
It's also funny because they're always like, oh, we want more diverse characters in our comics, but you killed off an important black character in Iron Man mythos. Like, what the fuck?
You get it? And
it's artificial diversity.
Must die. Yeah. Like all the Civil Wars, a black man or several black men must perma die.
I know. I'm just saying that like it's become a. It's
I know.
it's just artificial diversity on Marvel's
No, that's
part.
why I'm like making fun of it because I'm like, you keep talking about your diversity, yet you did the most racist shit ever. Where every time you make a Civil War, black dude must die.
Right.
Funny considering the implications of
amount of room for black people. Like it's like, well, we already filled up our black people quota, so we might as well kill one off. Like what the hell, guys?
Right.
And
Sorry, my joke.
but that actually makes me wonder if they're gonna bring War Machine back, because Marvel Legacy is like not necessarily their last chance, but it's very much a wake up call for them.
Well, technically, though, you could argue that they did bring a War Machine back because if you've been reading Punisher, that he's now wearing the War Machine.
That is whitewashing at its finest.
Oh, I know. It is probably the most. Nobody
talked about it. I'm the only one that was
surprised
that
did not get. I'm surprised that did not get more backlash than it.
Because you want to know why? The SJWs don't care because nobody was alerting them. ABC wasn't talking about it, and when we alert them, they don't care. It's only when it's a girl or whatever, or their new characters. They don't care about the old stuff. This shows how hypocritical they are, and it pisses me off because I freaking love Rhodey Rhodes. Like, as soon as I saw those movies, I'm like, who's this guy? And they're like, it's Rhodey Rhodes. And I'm like, whoa, I like Rhodey Rhodes. Super cool. And look at him.
Okay, to be fair, I do like watching Frank people, but but at the same time, it's kind of disrespectful for Frank to just pick up the War Machine armor and go, fuck his legacy. I'm just gonna go Frank people.
Yeah, well, they're like, hey, we stole his armor and you get to wield it. It's like, and also the funeral was handled really bad as well. It was like only black people in the front. It's like half these people don't even know Rhodey.
By the way, there was another character that Secret Empire just completely crapped all over too, because
Patriot.
What? No.
Eli Bradley?
No. Frank Castle. He was actually during Secret Empire.
He was a Hydra.
He decided to side with Hydra because Steve Rogers.
I mean, I will play devil's advocate and say that's something that Frank would do. He'd think that Captain America was the better man, even though he's not the better man. But at the same time, it's motherfucking Hydra.
He would have been more sticking to his guns and refusing it because he doesn't side with anybody that kills and so forth. This is against his MO. And you want to know what? Jerry Conway was asked about it. And of course, I think he was kicked out by then or something like that, because he's sitting there and the only thing he had said is, I pretend it doesn't exist. Like, he writes that on his Twitter. Like, he's like, he was utterly appalled that his own creation was being used this way.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, not to say that the Frank Castle is actually the most stable of individuals in the comics, but it's one of those things where there is no way this guy who is supposed to be who is such a, in terms of a black and white morality that he has, would go along with Hydra, regardless of who was leading it. In terms
he'd probably say "fuck you" and put a couple bullets in some goons before running away. And
he'd feel. I mean, if he looked up to Steve Rogers as much as he is, he would feel absolutely betrayed.
Like Deadpool, I can see doing something like that, but I can't
because he's in it for the money, right?
And not even that, because he views Steve Rogers as a hero and he'll follow him to the ends of the earth. But Punisher has at least common sense. The other character doesn't.
The other character that was practically almost ruined by that too was Thor, not Jane Foster Thor, the original Thor, because his whole logic was, well, if Cap picked up the hammer, that means he must be worthy, and therefore I must follow him. And it's like, which later they retconned to be a trick.
Oh my god! Oh my god! That's shit. They were shitting on all the old characters. They were trying to kick them out.
Here's the thing. What I think would happen with Secret Empire, because it had such huge backlash. Remember, it was kind of like it had experienced like there was a delay. Then they decided to expand the issue to 10 series, and then it got Omega. And then again, this is pure conjecture on my part. I think what happened was because got so controversial and such backlash that there was some last minute changes. Because if you actually read Secret Empire 10, it was very clear that Sam Wilson was supposed to be the permanent Captain America at the end of that series, especially if you read the way it is. But then you get a Secret Empire Omega, or if you read Captain America Generations, then Steve Rogers gets the good Steve Rogers versus the evil Steve Rogers, mind you. He gets the shield back, and then Steve becomes Captain America again. that clearly to me, that to me clearly looked like editorial mandated. Stepping in because they realized how much they screwed up in making Steve an outright Nazi.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great idea. Let's just go and make Nazis and see nothing wrong can happen with
No, nothing to see here. No. But so they realized at that point, I think, well, especially there was a point where he blows up Vegas in the second issue. It's like, okay, and they're getting to the point.
And he puts stones on a firing line.
They burned Vegas. I saw the clips of that. I think they put it on the Spider-Vine where two of the black people were telling what was it? Miles was like, "Oh no, all the innocent people," and then somebody's like, "It's okay. They were only white people."
It was. Right. I think it was a New Patriot, like Rashad.
New Patriot's psychopathic.
No, it's a different Patriot. Eli Bradley has like rights issues, so they've sidelined him and put him in like voter registration or something. And like the lamest happy ending possible.
It was one of these things where I think it got to a point where I think the idea was like I think initially the idea was that we're going to try to show that. I think what Nick Spencer was going for with that series was that trying to show like how
that was Champions. That was Champions.
No. Yeah, but in Secret Empire, I know with Champions that was kind of like they're trying to like trying to appeal to like a youth rebellion type thing.
Well, that's just more Mark Waid trying to be how do you do fellow kids, the writer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
it's clear by the words he uses, like white privilege. That's a buzzword. I can use that to get sales.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, yeah, but with Secret Empire in general, I think it got to a point where, they were trying to go with this idea that, putting too much, don't. It was more of a kind of the way he was kind of writing. It was more like the idea tried to put too much. Don't put it's a kind of treatise on fascism and don't put your faith too much in like a how you can be portrayed by those you can look up to and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's Steve Rogers. It's freaking Captain America. You didn't think this was gonna. You didn't think you were gonna get people kind of. You didn't think people weren't gonna get upset by this, especially when you have like the fact that it's a character who was created by two Jewish creators as a means of trying to show what as kind of like anti-Nazi propaganda. I mean, it was when it came out. I mean, it was that. And so then you're turning that character into
exactly the opposite of
it is, right?
And right on the 100th birthday of Jack Kirby too. It's like it's fucking like holy shit. But not only that, if we recall, then you just have to sit there and realize several people looked over this idea because at first Nick Spencer actually tried to pull blame on somebody else. Like, if you don't like Secret Empire, don't blame me. Blame this guy who already left, who came up with this idea years ago.
That's a Josh Trank tier tactic.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Real creation from the story goes that somebody else came up with the idea, except it was totally different. He was like, would it be cool if there was all these like people, like maybe in S.H.I.E.L.D., like it was supposed to be one story or something like that, where it's discovered that in several like things like the Future Foundation and like at Tony Stark and stuff, they had secret Hydra agents.
Right, exactly.
And they were supposed to, like at a certain time, all just get together. They were supposed to be in all these places to shut them down so Hydra can take over. That sounds like a really cool story. And so everybody would be like, who's the Hydra agent? I don't know.
Wasn't that Hickman's shield?
I don't know. Like it was somebody and he left. And Nick Spencer took the idea and decided, I hate Donald Trump. Let me go make a Donald Trump story.
Well, no, this was made before the election was even thought of. Like
anywhere
near the show.
The idea of having Hydra sleeper agents in every organization within the Marvel universe, I believe that did come out of it was either
before Trump. That came before Trump, absolutely, because that's a story about how scary it is to know somebody has leaked into something you believe is secure. But I'm talking about when Nick Spencer took it.
Oh yeah, when Nick Spencer came on,
critical direction that he's like, I really don't like Donald Trump, and I'm the best politician ever, or something.
Except that he's a failed Cincinnati senator.
Yeah, he failed.
Sorry, Jack Thompson just went into comics. What do we expect? So,
right, yeah.
I'm gonna put on my autism cap. Just a second.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, yeah, because the thing with the whole deal with Spencer with on the Cap thing. And I mean, it got to a point where, yeah, I mean, as that series was definitely going on, you can try. I mean, it wasn't just Spencer backpedaling too. They got, because as a thing, I mean, especially after the second issue, where Marvel in themselves go out and make a press release and saying, "Oh, don't worry, folks, Captain America will get better by the end of this thing." They basically say that don't you can relax. He won't be a fascist for long or everything. See, we got this old dream sequence of Cap thing, so don't worry, kids. Everything will be fine. When Marvel comes out and basically says that, that's when you knew that things were going bad.
They didn't even give it to us. It's a dream Cap that's made up. He's a fantasy. He's not even the real one.
Oh yeah.
It's an alternate universe Cap that was just plucked out of reality by a little girl cosmic cube.
Stupid cosmic cube. Why did they do a thing where they had two versions of Cap or something, and then the cosmic cube did taint this one, like swapped it. That this is that the devil, whatever Hydra Cap, is literally made by the cosmic cube beforehand, and the other Cap was trapped inside the cosmic cube. Or something.
Yeah, and that would have been fine. Yeah,
but then Captain America, but he's brainwashed to the extent, and they have to try and make him remember, like, fight it, Cap, fight it. And then
that's what also kind of upset people, I think, even when you looked at Secret Empire, like the whatever the Zero was issue, what they call that, where they kind of implied that, oh, the Nazi Germany won World War II. Yeah, it's not for the Hydra, but the Allies used the cosmic cube to rewrite history to our world.
I remember when you were still writing for whatever a Spider Can, or had you moved on to Bam Smack Pow?
I think I was actually. That was probably I was writing for Wonder Spider Can when that issue came out and did write that. And that's right the time when I actually got.
I read that before I started listening to the podcast, like on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what your thoughts were on that particular issue, but you sounded freaking pissed.
Oh, I was actually. That was the moment where I knew that I was kind of thinking when I read that scene about how essentially implying, wait, so you're where you have Spencer is implying that, so you're basically telling everyone that World War II was a complete lie. It's almost like, to me, that's almost sounded like it was almost the level of Holocaust denying. And it was just, and that was the moment where I'm thinking, this is just going to be an absolute train wreck. If he continues doing stuff like this, it's just going to be, they're going to get, it's going to be, the backlash is going to be here. And sure enough, as that series going on, it just completely, it was a complete route.
I do like the Pimtron issue where they go to the Arctic Circle and
the Hank Pym thing. Yeah, the Hank Pym thing, that was actually really good, because it was almost kind of like that was
meta commentary on
it. Was meta commentary, and I think that's delivered, and that's partly why I do think that Spencer, despite some of his things, he does know what he's actually doing in terms of a writer. So,
and he clearly understands Ant-Man.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Scott Lang, Astonishing Ant-Man is not amazing, but it's a good run on Scott Lang.
Sure.
I'm gonna say this about Nick Spencer joining up. He has to do something. Like with Spider-Man, he is already a tainted artist. Let's face it, he's a tainted writer. Everybody knows him as the Nazi Cap. That's like putting Joe Quesada on anything. We're all like, "You're the devil dealer, man. Nobody wants to deal with you anymore." So it's kind of like this. He has to pull a Hail Mary in order to save his reputation. And even then, I'm going to quote Kyle One from South Park when going over Cartman's taxes, when he wants to know how many presents he's going to get. This is the quote I'm going to say. "Even if you cure AIDS and cancer, you will still owe Santa 2 presents." Even if Nick Spencer ends one more day and fixes Hydra Cap, he will still owe us.
I mean, he did fix Hydra Cap, kind of.
He did not fix Hydra Cap.
I'm talking more about the fact that Secret Empire is over and we have a Captain America back. Remember, the autism hat is on.
Captain America.
But that's the problem. I think that's what Nerd is kind of saying here, is because I agree with this, that because of Secret Empire, Marvel, I think that has done more irrevocable harm to Marvel as a brand, even now. because I mean it's one of those things where they're still, I mean, to me, it's like Legacy was their first attempt at trying to revitalize themselves and try to, yeah. Sorry. But then now you're going with whatever Fresh Start is.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I like the majority of the creative teams that are on Fresh Start. I do like Donny Cates on Venom. I'm optimistic about Coates on Captain America as much as I wouldn't, as suspicious as it is.
You and Mim both stated that he give him a chance, he may be able to do it.
I do like Wade on Ant-Man and the Wasp, as I know it's a synergy book.
Yeah,
but it does have promise.
Aaron, Aaron's the look on what in terms of like the Avengers comic by Aaron, I think that actually, you've actually got it looks like it's a decent lineup. Yeah. So I'm expecting some
the art is a little weird. Ed McGuinness is a very much an acquired taste. So
yeah, I'm gonna call you all fools right now because I am believing this is going to be another trap, and by the time everybody buys the books, you're gonna figure that out, and it's gonna be too late because they're gonna make their money and laugh at us because they did this before.
I know.
It's just I'm hoping for something good out of this.
Well, that's what aggravates me about this thing. I think, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who's aggravated about it. Is why we
just got the legacy numbering back.
Yeah, and the fact that we're complaining about and there's been complaints after complaint about how Marvel has basically relaunching their books with a brand new #1 to the point where they actually had to put out a catalog to explain how all the various #1s went in chronological order for all these different books, and they're doing it again. That's to me you don't want to try to keep doing that over and over again because at that point it's going to confuse people.
Well,
I mean, and I know they're supposedly putting like in parentheses what the actual number is.
Nobody cares.
But yeah, but again, this is supposed to be they're trying to do kind of boost the numbers, their sales numbers again because
that's ain't gonna help. Let's face it. Legacy ruined like they have so many unsellable titles. It became a joke. They were
it seems like Fresh Start's trying to streamline everything because we've narrowed down from 3 Avengers titles to 1. There's no sign of Miles Morales right now in terms of a for a solo title.
They'll still continue him. I mean, even after Bendis is gone, they're always going to pick it.
I mean, he's still on Champions, but I'm talking more about like
Jessica Jones and Miles. They were going to make an ongoing series for them. I don't know how, but supposedly that was already decided that they were going to keep them going. I just they weren't making. I know Miles made enough numbers, but I'm not sure about Jessica Jones did. Mediocre from what I hear, so I don't.
I mean, mediocre is amazing for Marvel right now.
Oh yeah, that is. Meanwhile, everything at DC tends to sell really well.
I mean, Super Sons is like a C-list title with. Admittedly, they have A-list side characters getting their own solo title, but they're still selling $35,000 on issue 13.
Yeah, it's a really good series, and they're trying, and they know it has potential to sell more, so they're trying everything else. Yeah, they canceled it, but specifically because they want to try a new angle to try and get more sales in a certain light. And I'm like, thank you.
And with Percy leaving the title, because is he leaving the title? Because I know he's leaving Green Arrow soon. But it could be that now that Bendis is taking over Superman and that Percy may be out the door for some reason. I don't know why, but it could be that he's taking over Teen Titans. And he's putting John and Damian on that team.
They were supposedly no. The real reason is they decided to make Super Sons into a graphic novel. That's why it's moving out. They said they're canceling it, and then it was surprised a little while ago briefly that they're making a new thing called Zoom that's supposed to be getting down.
Okay.
They're making a graphic novel specifically, and I think they're going to stick it into schools, and it's Super Sons. It's going to be a Super Sons eccentric, but also they have announced that most of the books are going to be stopped, which are Teen Titans and Titans. So yeah, I do believe they're revamping the whole entire team, and I think we're instead going to get Teen Titans and Young Justice League. I think it's going to be fixed. They're going to stop some stuff.
And you're saying that they're going to do like it's almost going to be like it's almost like original graphic novels kind of imprint.
I think. So, yeah.
Okay, so it's all not quite at the same level as the Earth One books, but okay, but yeah, because with DC right now, they're definitely. I mean, especially when you got both Dark Knight's Metal and Doomsday Clock, they're pretty much both are really killing it in that regard too. Although Batman, anything with Batman these days is also kind of is pretty top tier.
At the same time, like people like back in the day, like this should be what, like if you look at it, like out of all the titles, nothing as hot as back in the day, but Batman can still rank up 100 no matter what the frick's going on.
Oh,
and
sure.
then we look at their flagship title, Spider-Man. Spider-Man can barely hit 50. And you know bloody damn well they're screwing up if that happens. And they're like, he's nowadays the times it's like, no.
No. Yeah, I agree. Because at that point, that's I think one of the reasons probably why Slott ended up getting replaced, because they probably realized that while he was making money for him initially, now it's gotten to the point where
Spider-Man by default sells well.
Well, that's because it's one of those it's one of those collector's item things that the people like. It doesn't matter what the book content is; they're just going to pick it up.
If it was like, let's face it, they lost half their readership, never return until you undo that. I don't know why they don't undo it. And like they say it's because mandatory, whatever the BS. And I'm like, you're not making money. You're not making money. It's you being an idiot brat.
And even then, I'm not sure the reader base would really return after the marriage was restored, because it's still an untested writer being they might. They will, because if you look at Renew Your Vows, if Renew Your Vows was somehow not a alternate universe title, and if it was, I mean, I'm just saying there'd be people who wouldn't return even if the there's people who definitely wouldn't come back, just because the status quo is in a place where even the marriage did come back, as unlikely as it is right now, given how Slott's been kind of baiting us right now with the whole teasing. There's still a huge gap of people who just don't like the current status quo, and the marriage wouldn't really fix that.
Well, I'm just saying you can't just automatically put in the marriage and everything's restored. It has to be done like Rebirth, which was we're really sorry. And if you notice, that's how they restored Superman's marriage. They
exactly.
Where they're like, wait a minute, we were married all the time. That's just me, a different version of me. What do you mean? Oh no,
Dr. Manhattan shenanigans.
It doesn't make fully sense, but we accept it because it was so moving and so interesting. And in fact, okay, here's the other thing. Secret Empire Renew Your Vows was one of their best-selling mini stories.
Secret Wars. I know what you mean. Yeah.
Everybody, because you want to know why? They said some of these stories are going to become canon. So everybody bolted towards it because everybody freaking knew. Everybody knew there was this hope that it was coming back. And it was like...
I mentioned this in the V-Days. I mentioned this in your V-Day stream that Renew Your Vows, I think, oversold the main Secret Wars run. Am I right?
Yeah. I think when the first issue of that miniseries came out, I think it actually did. It was either, if I remember correctly, the estimates were either greater or about matched that with Secret Wars #1. So there was a definite audience for it. But I think as over time went on, once people figured out, oh, this is just an alternate universe thing, that's why you start, and where it kind of turned into
just an Elseworlds.
An Elseworlds thing. That's because Elseworlds title, let's face it, and they don't do particularly well. And especially, and since now the book is now kind of a wannabe Spider-Girl now, since they aged her up.
It lost all its fan base. It lost everything because it now only sells 19,000. They swap everything. It's as if they want it to die.
Well, it's confirmed that they do, because when Conway was still writing the title, he was demanded by editorial to tie the X-Men in, and it wasn't something he really wanted to do. And then editorial wanted him to work on to put MJ in Venomverse because she sells. And then when Jodie Houser came onto the title, the 8 years later time skip had already been planned far in advance. So it's partially on her. It's partially on her to make it work, but at the same time, editorial has been consistently screwing over the title.
No, won't work. It's so terrible because Jerry. It was also revealed Jerry was going to make this an alternate universe where he said no to the devil. That was the main premise. He was going to write this happened in Civil War, and he said no to the devil. And he also said he didn't know if this was going to be Clone Saga daughter or a new one. In other words, Annie would have either been a brand new child or they found her. They found their kid, and that is so cool. And also, he actually did explain he wanted to put Johnny Storm in. He wanted to do several crossovers, but he specifically, his first one he wanted to do was Johnny Storm. And
okay, I did not hear about that. That would have been pretty cool too.
Oh yeah, he was like, I really want the Fantastic Four. I know we can't fully put them in, but I want Johnny Storm because he is his best friend. He needs to be in this. And of course, he immediately was fine. He was removed. It's obvious, like, he was very passionate, it seemed like, in this project. Like, he wanted to prove that he was a good writer, like, he's always a good writer, but he's like, I want to be
his Carnage run wasn't exactly hot shit.
Okay, yeah. But, like, he did pretty good on it. Like, even if he didn't want to do the X-Men story, that was great world building, because in that story, it explained in like 5 panels, but so well, that Civil War never happened. This is an alternate universe where Charles Xavier suddenly knew, oh shit, horrible shit's gonna happen. He went with the Illuminati.
But at the same time, it's also kind of implied that not everyone's hunky-dory, because Charles Xavier effectively becomes Team America World Police, deciding who is right.
Well, I think that was what's interesting about it is it took a concept from the original Civil War and it's like, okay, well, here's the compromise they came up with. And so now you've got this situation where, and I thought this is where it was going initially, was that Charles Xavier use his telepathy to influence world leaders in order to not register superheroes. Because if he did that, and that's why Cyclops was mad at him and stuff. I don't know if that was implied.
Super furious. And no, it was unknown why, but he said it was because they had to police their own or something, and that Jean left him. Actually, here's a fun factoid as well. Editorial told them to put Jean with Wolverine because one of them was a Wolverine Jean shipper.
Okay.
That's the only reason that happens.
One of the fun things about writing for Neighborhood is that I don't have editors telling me what I can and can't do. Okay, that's a lie, because Muhammad and Mark, I pitch them an idea and they'll go, okay, think about this hard for a minute. Yes, it sounds cool, but does it really make sense?
Right.
And so, because I had 3 years worth of time skip to work with, I decided to rework Civil War and have the heroes use common sense rather than just use their fists. So the SHRA still passes, but they use common sense and just kind of have we'll go over to this side, you'll go over to this one, and we won't bother each other unless we work together. And because the heroes work better, and even then they still highlight the problem with that. And Days of Deception was meant to unite the heroes again because they are by definition better together. I have an editor, but at the same time, they're not telling me to hijack the story for a purpose of their own agenda.
Yeah, well, I mean, they help you what you have is passionate ones that understand the art. This is an art form. I know corporate suits are important at times, but the corporate suits can't control the whole entire story or you get crap. And this is what's happening ever since, forever. They've been running around with, they're now all corporate, and they're like, I wonder why this doesn't sell. Oh, I don't know. Maybe you just suck at suggesting.
Maybe they're racist.
Well, no, if you look at sometimes, if you're looking at editorial, I mean, this is something I've joked on the podcast a couple times, is that when I say about an editor, Nick Lowe, I says, I don't believe he actually edits these books, because if you actually look at the books, more often than not, No, it's not just that. They have just basic grammatic. There you can find misspellings and grammatical errors in there. There's on occasion.
They get their paychecks and they're walking away. Like I think
this is an exact copy of like the New 52 because like I remember reading the first issue of Red Hood and the Outlaws when. And like that was like when they were kind of manipulating results on polls to figure out their audience, and so you got like Starfire acting like a total slut, and then you've got like basic grammar errors just riddled all over the place.
Sure, yeah, but I mean, yeah, it's just, but it's one of those things like you get to a point where you kind of wish that there was a little bit in that regard. There should be a little bit more of an editorial influence, at least to try to, especially when you're dealing with titles that are going to be crossing into one another. You need somebody to actually kind of help, make sure the continuity between books makes sense. That was something like you hear when you hear stories about how Jim Shooter ran Marvel and why some of the creative some people over there were thinking, oh, he's too much of a taskmaster. But if you read comics from that era, there is a tendency where there is it's a lot more streamlined, and it's a lot like everything kind of fits together, even if it's but
he's an interview where he's like, "You guys are idiots. In my time," and I'm like, he's not lying. He ain't lying.
I miss when writers were. I remember the I think I've talked to Mike about this, but I know Nerd definitely knows. I've talked about it with her on one of my streams. The 2017 Nova run, with Jeff Loveness and Ramon Perez. They had to so the first issue had a terrible launch. 31,000 copies for #1.
Yeah, at that point you're pretty much done.
Yeah, and so they had to get like their first arc done, and so it was canceled on issue #5. Loveness and Perez fought the editors to get those last 2 issues out.
Yeah,
so I'm glad we did, because it would have been a real cliffhanger for for Rich to be stuck in the Cancerverse. But I'm glad that it got resolved because Rich came back, and I'm happy because Rich is best boy, and he and Sam are happy, and that's good. And I just wanted them to I'm just glad it's one of those parts where I'm glad editorial didn't do their job and just kind of gave up and let Loveness and Perez tell their story.
Well, that it kind of reminded me that thing about the 30,000 thing. That's what if you remember back during Spider-Man's Dead No More: The Clone Conspiracy, or as I like to call it, Clone Saga 3: The Revenge of Terry Kavanagh. Because when they had the Prowler series come out, that was supposed to tie in, and the first issue of that was, I think it was about maybe 30 something odd, and I pretty much said, okay, this book is pretty much going to be finished. It's not going to last very long.
Yeah, I remember you ran that article on whatever Spider Can that had the numbers. Yeah, and I was like, oh, this is going in the total shitter.
Yeah, and I also reviewed the issue, and it wasn't too bad, but I'm thinking I basically my biggest complaint was it's too much. It's too tied into the event. Once the event's over, that's this comic doesn't have any identity.
The other issue is he was dead. He was dead, and that was a clone. It was
Clone Boy. It was Clone Boy.
It was a clone. Yeah, it was a clone too.
And so they were all like, well, look at it. It's like everybody doesn't like him because blah blah blah. And it's like, no, it's because he's a clone.
And what's kind of funny is that Dan Slott actually wrote me in response to that review I did.
Yeah.
And he's kind of been complaining about how the fact that he's essentially saying, well, you don't know how well this book is going to do. Essentially, that's what he's essentially saying.
It's like Mugga, we saw ASM 17. We know what the Prowler series is going to be about. It's going to be a Clone Boy.
Yeah, no, but he's essentially was trying to say, like, you sound like you're just kind of dismissing the thing. And also because I was kind of made it like a tongue-in-cheek reference, like, to what when I kind of imaginary scenario, like just I kind of could imagine, like, how did they pitch the Prowler series in the Marvel offices, and the editors tell the guy, hey, that sounds great, we're going to tie it into this clone book, and with all this
and I'm mad because because there was only 2 tie-ins to Clone Conspiracy, ASM and Silk, along with Prowler.
Yeah,
and it's very obvious that Silk was a last-minute addition to the Clone Conspiracy tie-ins, because in the last 2 issues, there's plot elements that were kind of lightly tread upon. There's the last villain that Cindy faces before the series ends is Icicle Sim's secretary person.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And in the background of the clone conspiracy tie-ins, she's there, but it was clear that she was meant to be developed more before these last 2 issues rolled out.
Right.
And so something tells me that Thompson had like 3 issues dedicated to fleshing out these characters.
Right.
Then editorial stepped in and said, "Hey, Silk has spider powers, right?" And then Thompson went, "Yes, she has spider powers. That's exactly why you created her, to be a female Spider-Man, even though we already had one. Good, let's put her in this event."
Yeah. Well, because
it totally derails any sense of pacing the book had.
Sure. Well, and that's was, I mean, and the thing is, I think with that time, with it, like after Spider-Verse came out, when you had all those Glut of Spider titles, you knew when you had Spider-Woman, Silk, and Spider-Gwen.
Oh, I hated that. You know what? There was no Spider-Girl either.
No, I know, but I know.
Mayday. Okay, let's be honest. Do we want a Mayday book in this current atmosphere?
No, I'm just saying that because DeFalco actually, also speaking of DeFalco, he's very vocal. He only is on Facebook, though. He doesn't do Twitter. And very vocal on there. Like, when he hears Dan Slott say something, he counters it, but only on Facebook. So he's countered half that shit. And he's actually said, if you really want a Spider-Girl, you should go and write to them, specifically in physical letter form, because they won't listen to you any way. I'd love to come back, but I couldn't do it because I'm like, they're going to force it to be the Dan Slott's version and not his. He will not be able to write his Spider-Girl. They're not going to allow it. Even if he writes, I would have been fine if we wrote it. If you want to put in Dan Slott's Spider-Girl, they could have done it where we're Spider-Girl from the real universe. It's DeFalco's, and we leave off right where it began, where she starts talking to that guy, and then suddenly a portal rips open, and it's the other Spider-Girl that's been dealing with all the Dan Slott stuff, and she warns her of some, like, Morlun has escaped. Morlun is the only one that has escaped, and he's coming after her.
Well, what's interesting,
I'm glad Sony doesn't have the rights anymore. Like, Sony had the rights back when Spider-Verse was around, because then the Spectacular Spider-Man version would have been jobbed off.
What was interesting too is that but when that was coming out with the whole during Spider-Verse with the whole Spider-Girl thing, and I think it was Ron Friends who actually came out, and he essentially said, as far as he was concerned, oh, the Spider-Girl that's in that Spider-Verse, that's not Spider-Girl.
Yeah, DeFalco even said it. He said there's 1,000 universes. My Spider-Girl, no, because my Peter Parker could kick his ass, and we were all
She's eating wheat cake. She's eating wheat cakes.
I mean, there was even a backup issue where they actually had, I think, where they both DeFalco and Ferns, they did a Spider-Girl backup in one of those things, and they essentially, it was like, oh, what was it? No, I thought it was a Spider-Verse.
It was okay. It was either the Spider-Verse one shot.
It was one of the Spider-Verse one shots, and they basically in that story. It was implied that as far the way you could read it, it's like Mayday was kind of concerned, was almost like kind of the attitude they kind of took was, oh yeah, this is a different Mayday. This is not the Mayday that fans read about.
People pointed out as well that the Mayday from Spider-Verse had a different haircut.
Yeah,
I mean, that's more just Ramos doing Ramos out of continuity.
Also counter it because she had short hair, and the one at the end of Spider-Girl, where this one's supposed to leave off at, had long hair. So I like to pretend that's the universe where Yama was actually the Juggernaut's kid. I like to pretend that's that universe because nobody cares about that universe.
Right? Yeah. I mean, yeah, but it was one of those things where that's another one of those things where I think, like I said before, I don't know if you were off air at the time, but I think as soon as you started seeing Spider-Verse happen, that's when you knew. I mean, and you're essentially kind of cribbing the '90s, the finale of the '90s cartoon, where they had. That's where you're pretty much. That was the point where you're kind of thinking, okay, you've pretty much hit the point where
you jumped the shark.
You jumped the shark. You not only jumped the shark, but you're kind of like, that's just the point. This is pretty much. What else can you do at this point?
Well, also, the billionaire thing, that was also in that Spider-Verse story in the cartoon, and I'm like, you took everything from the cartoon, but sucked at it. It's like everything from the damn cartoon you have taken, you are trying to use, and you're awful. How do you suck this? I'm sorry. I'm just so he bitched at me one time on a chat room. I wasn't even there.
Oh yeah. And I totally sympathize because you're not the I myself have gotten Slot's ire.
Mike and Slot have had a very checkered past together.
We have a very interesting,
Are we gonna
thing
have
going.
like? Should we need to do? Can you please do a stream? Well, we will get Doug on one of these days.
The spider support group. The slot
say no to Slot. And
Doug has actually gotten he's gotten it way worse.
I talk to him, like we talk often. He's a great guy, sweetest man ever. He has literally I used to be so worried because he sounded so political, but I'd sat down and listened to him like, shit, this guy has seen some stuff. But but back, I just have to say this before I forget. This is about Nick Spencer, because this is what the whole entire podcast is. Yeah, we can say he made a great superior spider foe, whatever frig thing. But I would like to tell you this: people, when they want to say Dan Slott can write, point out his own miniseries for Spider-Man that is Johnny Storm and Spider-Man Team Up, which is the Human Torch Spider-Man Team Up story.
I'm with Stupid.
And that is literally what they go with. This is his freaking Johnny Storm, Peter Parker Team Up storybook. I'm just warning you guys. So pretty much, I have no fucking faith, okay? Because there's only 2 books that people defend Dan Slott, like, where there's like, he can write, he's just not it well. It is that book, and it is the Secret Wars, Renew Your Vows.
There's also
they might throw in She-Hulk there too. But I mean,
She-Hulk too. But at the same time, nobody brings in Superior, nobody brings in Big Time, because in reality, if you look at them compared to everything else, they're crap.
Oh yeah, I mean, like it goes back to my point. Is I think that it just got to a point where he got to a thing where he felt like, he got so enamored with working on Spider-Man, and he had to throw in all his old ideas, like he's spinning all these plates around, and of course I think he got to a point, and I think he was even suggesting this. I think he got burned out way too, earlier than he claims. And that but he only just stayed on the book because he wanted to be the guy. He wanted to be the guy to hit that milestone thing. He wanted to be, I'm going to be the guy who's going to hit 600, 700, 800. And I think it, and you could and the thing is, you could see that as in the book, in the comic as time went on. I mean, he started going through the same tropes that he kind of often used, and he's
even the same story beats at times.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and so at that point, you're just kind of you're kind of thinking, okay, you're just kind of running out of gas thing. And maybe, then again, Christos Gage is filling up some of your plots. So it's not, so it's not entirely, but in the meantime, he's also squandering his stuff on his Doctor Who fanfic, which was known as Silver Surfer.
Yeah,
I know people who like Silver Surfer, and I'm not going to knock.
The thing is, artistically, it's actually good.
But literally a kid. I just want to say this. I'm sorry for interrupting. I apologize. I'm supposed to be better than this, but
no problem.
It's literally, we had a Silver Surfer page on the Spider Vines and was talking about. No, wait. It was a I hate Dan Slott thread or something like that. And we're like, and then like somebody shouts out, can't we just like keep him on Silver Surfer and keep him there forever? And apparently, some Silver Surfers busted on in. They're like, no, how dare you give him onto us? Take him back.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest. It's at least like I don't want to hurt the Silver Surfer fans because all 3 of them. But Silver Surfer works for him as a containment book.
Well, I mean, artistically,
All right is fantastic.
Is fantastic in the book. I mean, there's no denying. I think it's deserving of of the award. It did get that. But Slott, again, if you read the book, it's clearly it was inspired by watching Doctor Who episodes.
I mean, and to be fair, a lot of comic books right now are on the Doctor Who train. Like the more that I love Transformers more than meets the eye, but at the same time, I realize that there's a lot of Doctor Who elements in there. That if IDW didn't have the rights,
Doctor Who, not old Doctor Who, isn't it like all the new?
It's all the new, yeah, definitely. It's definitely the new Doctor Who.
Aren't even the good kind. I'm sorry, no offense.
No, you don't like you don't like David Tennant Doctor Who? Get out! You're not welcome on the stream anymore.
I'm the guy. Okay, I'm the guy who was first exposed to Doctor Who watching the Tom Baker episodes on PBS.
I was introduced just before David Tennant. But my father taught me about him when I was a little
okay.
And my father told me about it because he knew he wanted me to be in film. He wanted me to be a director was this whole entire thing. So he
okay.
taught me this because Sci-Fi was making an original movie of Doctor Who and he got super psyched. And he told me about it. And I thought it was super cool and super smart that a film crew could make a character last forever when they just swap him off with a new actor. I thought it was so
exactly.
And the Bond films work on that exact same concept.
Yeah. But Doctor Who's got it's literally built into the premise, so you could act
like my father. It was just kind of interesting. Like it was a shitty movie, and my dad was so pumped, and I was like, what, 10? And I was like, that's okay, Daddy. I think what you told me means it's a super cool story, and I want to watch all of them. And I'm still determined to try and find the older stuff to watch because that was my father's passion for the original stuff.
Right.
I gotta find it.
Yeah, my girlfriend got me into Doctor Who. She was a major Matt Smither. So that's how I got into Doctor Who through the David Tennant, Matt Smith era. So I am not really on the same. I can't really say I sympathize, but at the same time, I get where y'all are coming from. So it's more like I'm just desensitized to it.
Everybody. I mean, in terms of the Doctor Who, I mean, everyone kind of it goes back to everyone has their favorite when it's usually it's when they first start watching these episodes, that's usually going to be their favorite.
I like the old guy who left in the middle of it, so they couldn't finish his run.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if you really talk to Doctor Who fans, really, I'm talking dedicated folks. The one that is what was it? Paul McGann.
Yeah.
That's the guy who played the Eighth Doctor in that really awful movie. But he went on to actually continued doing a lot of audio versions of Doctor Who, which are really good. And he also appeared in that one little short, in the new Doctor Who thing. There's always been kind of things that he felt like that for them, that is the definitive Doctor Who, because they feel like he's gotten shortchanged. And if you actually look at if you listen to some of the stuff, he actually is pretty good.
Apparently, the audiobooks or something like that is the reason that they had to do the Dalek.
Yep.
And I thought that was so clever that they said Dalek War killed off all of them because it was the audiobook was shitty or something like that. So they kind of edited it, but they're like, well, we have to still kill them all off. And it's like, okay,
yeah.
Slott's favorite era of Doctor Who is the movie. That's his favorite era.
Wow.
Oh, really?
No, I'm just shitposting.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That explains a lot about his writing.
Oh gosh.
I have to say there's but yeah, I still need to watch on the movie. But there was a great there's actually a great fan comic out there that kind of merges all the Doctors together. I think it's called the 12 Doctors because it was on the 12th Doctor at the time.
Oh yeah.
It is such a good comic, and it made me want to learn about all these other characters because they put in their best assistants all the way from the first Doctor and stuff. So
yeah,
it's just a really cute story if you ever read it online, and it was just it's really good.
Oh yeah, I mean
to be fair, I don't have a problem with writers borrowing elements from other franchises.
Sure,
for Humming, I recently finished writing the Kane arc for Friendly Neighborhood, and Aerislee's mind power. I tried to interpret her own power set. It works very similarly to the thought warfare of the Transformers franchise.
Okay.
But at the same time, I put enough of a spin on it that you could interpret it in a different capacity.
Yeah,
but the problem is that Slot takes concepts and kind of puts it's kind of like the square in the round hole. It could work if you cut off the fat, but it doesn't fit in the greater Marvel universe.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's certain things. I mean, like there are certain things where you can kind of see familiar threads. Like, for example, if you look at like the Matrix, for example, borrows from stuff like Terminator, and what have you, or other, and also and also cyberpunk fiction. But the way it's how you incorporate those different influences together to make something that's unique and original. It's just in the case with Silver Surfer in terms of plots, it was kind of very obvious where he was getting that stuff from.
Yeah. No.
And he wasn't exactly hiding it either. So I think that's what kind of, but
people were making, like, apparently during that time, like the Doctor Who was doing a superhero story, and the superhero was a dad and everything, and all the writers like, yeah, courage now, and they were all like, oh, look at that Slot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, that is going back. That's the frustrating thing to me as Spider-Man now is the fact is that you could have a situation where, because they have him pigeonholed to feel like he has to be the character who has money and girl problems, that no matter what kind of relationship situation he gets into now, it's going to fail.
It is,
and there's no drama involved at all in that thing.
Like, I don't remember the last time I cared about a love interest aside from Anna Maria. Like, Carly Cooper, we knew she was going to get sidelined, especially during Spider Island with all the teases with Mary Jane going, "Oh, I love you," and then it's like, and everyone like rejoiced when she fucked off.
Well, here's the thing. This is actually a little fun.
Or something.
What?
Well, yeah, she was named after Quesada's daughter, but that's a whole nother story.
Oh, that's pedophilia.
Yeah, I know it is. I know it was. But what was funny about Carly Cooper, I remember when this was back when Grace Randolph, beyond the trailer, thing, when she was still working for Marvel, they had a thing on their Marvel channel where they were announcing a poll on Spider-Man's love interest.
I remember this. Rate a love interest.
Yeah. I think you know where I'm going with this, right?
Yes.
So the choices were Mary Jane, Gwen Stacy, Black Cat, Carly Cooper. So the polls results came out, and Black Cat was number 1, and Carly Cooper was dead last behind other. In other words, more people were preferring a completely different anonymous love interest over Carly Cooper. And what's funny was Carly Cooper was the love interest that they were trying to push at the time, which was, I thought was.
I must have been.
She was just born to get rid of the Mary Jane romance and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
The only other person that couldn't love Peter is Black Cat, because she was also the cool character. Gwen Stacy hated Spider-Man.
Yeah, well, she was dead. Well, she was dead anyway. But it was
she was bridged.
Their marriage was doomed to fail. Like if you look at her older stuff, she would have made him never get back in the suit. He would have regretted every single day, and if he tried to get back into it, she would have screamed at him.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, but it was
developing powers. She would have been disgusted.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't like him because she would have blamed him forever for the death of her father. Like, even if she didn't try to. Gone. She can't forgive you. Like, I just know that because of her kind of character. I don't think she could ever fully forgive him.
Oh yeah.
Also, he kind of was a liar to her, so I can't blame her for wanting to dump his butt.
Oh sure, but it was one of those things where I think with because I remember all this stuff with Carly Cooper and stuff. They were totally trying to build her up and everything. The problem with her is, from an artistic perspective, the only defining feature that she had was she wore glasses. because the thing is, if you actually read back to those issues, they kept changing her hairstyle all the time.
That was right. Nobody could define her. All we knew was that
she had glasses.
She had glasses, and therefore that made her smart.
Oh my god! I have to tell you something else. Quesada is started the Powerpuff Girls syndrome before the Powerpuff Girl reboot. Because his daughter, now he's
Jared.
Yeah. He did this as well during
he's now doing with the new cartoon kind of thing. Like, I'm gonna be the spectator. You're the one that ruined him and sold children to Satan.
Okay,
You don't
well,
get any help.
well, I'm afraid, guys, I'm gonna have to go because I'm hearing some phone ringing and stuff like that. So
I know you wanted to get dinner tonight.
Yeah, that's so. No, but it was fun
West.
talking. It's fun talking to guys.
This was really fun.
Oh yeah, it was a blast. Yeah.
If I failed, I apologize.
Oh no, that's okay. No, I mean this is good. This is great. I mean it's always a great pleasure to have to be invited on and stuff like that, so we can just talk about comics and movies and all that great stuff. It was great. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
All right, we'll see you, Mike.
Okay, see you, Neil, or Quill Sniff. Excuse me.
I don't care. Nerd.
All right. And see you, Nerd. Nice to meet you again.
Me too. Come on up to our hamstring sometime with the girls.
Okay, well, I'll be used to it since I grew up with 4 sisters, so I'm pretty used to it. It's okay. So yeah, see you guys later. Take care.
All right, see you, Mike.
See ya.
He was a nice guy.
Yes, he is a very nice man, but
Agreeable, but that was cool to learn so much.
yeah. But I remember back when I first launched my neighborhood, everyone's like, "Why are you putting Carly Cooper in this? God damn it, Quill! You've already ruined the series before you even started it." And I'm like, "No, guys, listen. Last Stand of the Wrecker syndrome. No bad characters, only bad writers." And I guess that paid off though, because people like Carly in this series now.
Yeah, well, you gave her like stuff, and I like how and I know you have a very heavy initiative, which I can't blame you for, because it's so important. It's like no other love interests. It's time to purge the love interests in the best ways.
And I know Ursaber was like, "Why aren't you focusing more on the marriage?" And I'm like, "Well, that's kind of the point, that the marriage shouldn't be emphasized on." Because it treat it like it's always been there. Like don't make it a big deal, but just remind people that it's there's a marriage there. Oh yeah, that's important kind of. But it's more on developing the characters, the supporting characters with Peter's relationship to them rather than like emphasizing the marriage. Because like remember how in the JMS run when Peter, Mary Jane, and May were like the only characters aside from the Avengers?
Yeah, that was like a weird thing, and I know that upset people because Peter was always about his cast, but at the same time, JMS actually made it work. I would have liked it. I mean, like, there is an issue where even Schlott is notorious for this. There is no background characters. There is no supporting cast, and I have to say, even if the bastard that is, even if Nick Spencer does brings back a future cast, this series is so tarnished. Even like his name is tarnished that if they don't undo One More Day, I just don't see it like going anywhere. And yes, you also agree. Never like you don't need to emphasize the marriage so much. That was actually a problem with a lot of the writers. They're like, well, we shouldn't do that because now we can't like write about him being single. It's like it's the same damn stupid thing. It's like, oh no, I'm gonna be late for something because I'm Spider-Man. It still happens. It still happens, you guys. And it's like they have this sadistic kind of idea that we must pummel Peter to the ground and laugh at him. It's like he's not to be laughed at. He's
a person that you want to prop up and give him a hug and feel better.
Yeah, but not like make him miserable all the time either. He's not supposed to be a super emo like they want him to be. It's like he can't be married because that makes him not as sad or anything. It's like, dude,
you can have issues with marriage.
Yeah,
like, even with Friendly Neighborhood, I've made sure that there's still issues that Peter and MJ argue on. Like Cindy's powers coming up, that was a major confrontation for them because it's like, wait a minute, so you basically gave this kid your powers, now you want to make her your sidekick for no reason other than because you can, and Carly offhandedly told you to do something similar and you're interpreting it this way. And that's it's not necessarily a major conflict for them, but it's still, they can have arguments over mundane things.
And it's not like and they don't need to fight as well. Like it's just, they're like, he needs drama in his life. It's like, it doesn't need to be marriage drama. It could be anything else. Like, it's fucking Spider-Man. Then it's just like, at the end, it's like, look, you're writing him single. You could easily put in, I have a wife. Yeah, the end. And then just go and do the same stupid shit. And it would still happen. It would still... Is my stuff getting too loud?
There's something in the background. Like, is that shouting?
Yeah, apparently people are watching a movie. Let me go and try and shut the door.
Can't close doors.
In the stream. I'll go shut it a little bit more. It looks like they're maybe watching John Wick.
Oh boy.
It's a good movie.
I know, but it's like people tend to get rowdy at that movie. I know that from experience. I have people who are as young as I am. I know people who are above drinking age, and when they watch John Wick while drunk, it's an experience.
No, this isn't go. Yeah, that was
this one time I had friends who they left and one of them called me and they're like, Neil, I'm on shrooms, help me. And I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
And like you could hear them like because they were watching Rick and Morty.
Oh god.
You could hear like Rick on the other side of the screen, and like you know how trippy Rick and Morty is. So like imagine if I've never done shrooms before, but I can imagine like it being like a magical experience.
Yeah.
I could hear his friends going, "Whoa, man!"
Yeah, it's I help out my father at our house and so forth. So he rented a movie, watching it with my mom, and he's all like, yeah. So he's blaring up the volume because they're pretty much deaf at this point. So, and I'm like, what the heck? They like explosions. They really like explosions.
So they must get like boners at Bay movies.
I get no, they're not really into that. They're like John Wick movie. They love John Wick. They're like, whoa. Except my mom always falls asleep, so I think that's why he also turned up the volume.
Oh God.
Yeah, I think one of the only movies she stayed awake for was Doctor Strange. She loves Doctor Strange. My whole time, they love Doctor Strange.
Why do people love Doctor Strange? I like it, but it's not like the best movie in existence.
I mean, that's their favorite. No, it's their favorite Marvel movie. My mom's is probably it's that one and the first Iron Man.
Yeah, I like I've got a top 5. Like after Black Panther release, I finally have like a top 5 MCU films.
I gotta see Black Panther because I've heard nothing but like, oh man, it's so good, and I'm like, oh, I want to see it now. Like I would have been 100 times more hyped if they really did make Kraven the villain. And you want to know what they could have done if they wanted to do as him the villain? Instead, like if you can't do it for Spider-Man, do it Kraven's wife. Make Kraven's wife a Wakandan.
That was Sasha Kravinoff, right?
Yeah, Sasha Kravinoff, and she is from Africa.
What about Calypso? What about Calypso? No one uses Calypso anymore. So
yeah, I don't know. Like I would have just done like think about it. We could have done Kraven's wife, and Kraven's wife is this ultimate hunter as well, and she was kicked out of Wakanda because she's a psychopath like him, and they found each other, and she's trying to steal or she's trying to escape prison or make it Kraven, and he's coming in to bust his wife out of jail. Like that's why he's going into Wakanda, because she's been arrested and she was brought to Wakanda for trial, and he's trying to get her free.
Mick and Rorty. Sorry, I'm just checking the chat.
Oh dear.
But yeah. Black Panther, I've heard a lot of good things about. The one thing I've heard like a consistent complaint about is the god awful CGI. And having seen like WebMs of the subway fight, it's like before the movie came out, I went in knowing the CGI was going to be terrible, and the final product didn't convince me otherwise.
Oh, Black Panther?
Yeah.
Oh, lame. But I'm still gonna watch.
I know it's a good movie, but it's like it looks like a PS2 game at times.
Oh, lame! Dang it! But that's okay. I'll forgive.
No. Yeah.
I will forgive because I'm like, oh yeah.
I like good movies. Okay, the problem with the MCU is that their movies are typically like average for me. Like they all follow a kind of formula per se.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. It's like, is this gonna be forever? It's
yeah. But like the 5 movies I feel have broken the formula were Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier is still my favorite.
Yeah, that one's beautiful.
I guess Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, that's really good. Black Panther, Iron Man 1, and Ant-Man. I know people don't like Ant-Man, but I still like Ant-Man.
I think Ant-Man's like one of the best.
I know, but people will go like, "Oh, it sucks."
Why does it suck?
I don't know because people don't like. There's this one girl in my media communications class
Yeah.
who is like who's basically Tumblr on wheels.
Oh no! Tell me more.
Okay, so you know how there's Luis, right? The sidekick of the movie. She's like, I don't like the movie because it's racist towards Mexican people, and I'm like, what the fuck? He's an awesome character. He does awesome shit.
How is he racist? He's just some dude that's always ranting about stuff.
According to her, he's a caricature of Mexicans. And to be fair, she does have foundation in that, but doesn't make the movie racist.
Yeah, but at the same time, I didn't think that. I just thought he was just a really hyper dude, because that's how white people act all the time. I act like that.
He's a fun character. I don't know why. Yeah, Smaxo said it best. Ant-Man's less of a hero movie, more of a heist movie. I do like heist movies. Like I admittedly enjoy Tower Heist.
Okay.
But it's like I love heist movies, so I just kind of love Ant-Man. But it's like I love Ant-Man because Paul Rudd's a great character. Paul Rudd's a great actor. Michael Douglas is Hank Pym. This is one of the reasons I didn't want Edgar Wright to make Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Is because he wanted to make Hank Pym a villain.
You can't make Hank Pym a villain.
Well, you can. I mean, you can have him hit Jan, but that's about it.
But I like how they did it in this movie, where it was more of he fucked up. We don't know how. Like, we kind of know how, and they kind of got rid of the abuse thing, which, if you ever go on my Heron streams or listen in, Mariana will keep explaining that was an accident.
And actually, Wasp was abusing him mentally.
Yeah, and actually, through that, my brother says, well, he was kind of in a messed up state at the time, but also, that was an accident. The artist didn't like the person that was writing the script sucked at explaining stuff or something, so the artist interpreted it in the wrong way and they kept it in the book.
Yeah, I actually was, you know how I've been writing prose for the Fun Neighborhood universe?
Yeah.
I was planning on writing a Yellow Jacket one where Hank, it's sort of like how Pimtron commented on Secret Empire, but it's a meta commentary on how Hank realizes that he'll only be known as the wife beater of the Avengers. It's sad because Hank is a very interesting character in that he's self-destructive every time he seeks help.
Yeah, it's I know that you guys, like, earlier we were talking about Hank in that thing on Secret Empire where he kind of mocks everybody.
Like, you started 2 civil wars, you had the balls to call me a bad person.
Yeah, that's true and stuff. And they could fix it.
But they won't.
Yeah, they won't because
it's not easy.
But at the same time, everybody, like, all their stuff is always choosing drama soap operas. And that's like the joke of superhero series now, is that they're doing every trope that they used to try and break. It's now
it's subversion, no. That's how The Last Jedi gets away with anything. Subversion.
And it's so dumb because, like, if we think about it, it used to be the trope that superheroes couldn't get married or anything because their loved ones would be hurt. And then it was like it was them. It was Marvel that was like, screw that. Let's get everybody married. You'll get married, and you'll get married.
And you especially get married, Spider-Man.
Yeah, and you especially, because the fans keep asking for it. And actually, they were going to get married. But it was supposed to be Mary Jane that leaves him at the altar, and they were gonna do Parker Luck, and then but Stan Lee went up and said, like, pretty much, he was like, hey, you guys ever think about getting married? He's like, well, we were gonna do this, and then Mary Jane was gonna leave him at the altar because she apparently is gonna get better with her sister, Parker Luck, and he's like, oh, okay, but
What if we did it for real?
He was like, oh, well, I kind of was hoping that maybe we could do it for real. And they're like, what? And they're like, yeah, the fans are really into it. And they're like, well, if the fans are really into it. And then they're like,
maybe we can make sales off of this.
Yeah, and then Shooter was all like, I'm not really interested in them being married. And then, or whoever was at the time, he wasn't a fan, but he found out the fans really wanted it. He's like, well, if the fans really want it, I think we could work with it. Sure. And that's how we got also Kraven's Last Hunt, because the guy was like, I get to pick anybody. They're like, yeah, go check it out. He was like, wait, Spider-Man just got married? Oh, hell yeah, that's the guy.
I'm gonna screen share real quick for a second.
Sure. That is literally the sole reason he did Kraven's Last Hunt, because he's like,
I felt like he wanted a character that'll have a reason to crawl back out of hell, and he's like, Mary Jane and Peter Parker are so in love. F yeah, those are the ones I want to use. And then
this is me when One More Day happened.
Oh God,
poor Rodimus.
You want to know what's really funny? I was gonna start picking up the books when that happened. I was gonna pick up because I grew up in the middle of nowhere, and I was about to go to college, and my college was going to be located near comic book shops, and I lived in the middle of nowhere in a little state that was in the middle of nowhere, so I wasn't able to embrace this kind of stuff. So I was being informed by my friends everything that was happening, and I was like, this sounds so cool. Spider-Man just exposed himself. I want to learn all about this. I want to learn about this Gwen Stacy girl and everything. And then One More Day happened. I said no more Spider-Man. I used to play the video games. I used to watch cartoon stuff, and I used to pick up books and stuff. And I was like, no more. I dropped everything.
So were you at the age when the cartoons
Spectacular was hitting?
So you were at the age when you were in college, One More Day happened, and then
I refused to. And so I was the demographic. They said that's why they did it for me. I didn't even watch the third movie, which I was like, wow, I saved myself. And
even when I was an edgy teenager in high school, I'm just now getting into college.
Yeah.
Even then, Slot was like, oh, this is the this is just I'm supposed to be the demographic for Slot right now. I'm like, bitch, no, I want my marriage back. I wasn't even around. I was even thought of when the marriage was actually happening.
I was it was kind of like Lois Lane and Clark Kent. So
they're just so ingrained into popular culture that it would be.
It's weird not to see them married. Kind of, it's why isn't Lois Lane and Clark Kent getting married? It's because the single whatever life. It's so just get them married, and then they were like, okay, and they're like, yeah, okay, and they're like, holy shit, it works. Except I love that the reason they killed him before the marriage was literally because the TV show was screwing them over, and they were like,
that was the animated series, right? Or is that Lois and Clark?
Was the live action TV show. They had a Lois and Clark show.
Yeah, it was Dean Cain as Superman. I remember that.
We're gonna get married in the show, and they were told, we have to release them at the same time. And they were already prepared. They were set up everything. They already wrote it. They wanted it to go to press right now. And they said, no, you're not allowed till the show does it. And that was not for months. So they were like,
okay.
Let's say fuck you to them. It's how? We'll kill Superman. We'll kill him. Oh, fuck. And that was literally the reason they did it, because they were pissed. And then, of course,
I thought it was also because they needed a big sales boost at the time. And
the marriage was going to be their sales boost. But then all that junk happened. They're like, screw that.
Okay, because I remember there's a couple of alternate accounts. I think Dan Jurgens was the guy who said, let's kill him as a marriage spiting. And then I remember someone else, I think it was the editor, they said, let's kill him off because we need some good sales. And then after Supergirl, was it Connor? No, Connor was later, way later. Who am I thinking of? Superboy. I know there was a Superboy.
Yeah, it was Connor.
Okay. And then there's also Steel as Superman, kind of. But they had all these it's kind of how the Spider books worked, and it's very eerily similar in a way, except that they paid respect to Superman rather than shitting on him.
And in fact,
and then he came back, with the black suit and the mullet.
Yeah, and then everything went back to normal, and he got married in the end because
no one wants to remember about the mullet.
Nobody wants to remember. The black suit's kind of cool. They brought that back in
in the Lois and Clark, the Road to Rebirth. Yeah, I remember that.
Which was a really cool idea concept. Wasn't that his father's suit or something?
I don't want to say yes because I don't remember per se. I remember the Convergence tie-ins.
I gotta buy it. I want to buy those. So
don't. Okay, whatever you do not buy Convergence the main series because Convergence was trash.
No, nobody likes Convergent. We just like it for this. It's kind of like Secret Wars with Spider. It would have been more interesting. Like people were like, we don't even give a shit if you're gonna just copy Superman rebirths. Do it. Just do it, Spider-Man. Like everyone thought that if we didn't do the 8-year time skip, there was a chance Renew Your Vows was going to be in the real universe and just state, this is 616 Peter. What is he doing here? And then you could have just fixed all ties by saying this universe, several people in this universe are from the 616 and they've somehow integrated into this one. So we could have had half the dead people back and then like in a cool way and everybody would be like, what? And then, you know, it just fuses the worlds together.
Yeah. I've always been kind of one of those people who whenever a certain continuity catches my eye, like the MC2 universe has kind of become my main canon universe.
Yeah.
Just because it's the happiest ending that the main heroes get while also paying respect to them.
Yeah, and you want to know what? There was I used to do after school classes I used to teach kids art.
Oh, no way.
At a middle school? No, it was an elementary school. I forget where. Maybe it was a park. I did several. After school courses. So in several different schools teaching art. It was fun. But there was a little kid and they knew I liked Spider-Man. So they would ask me questions about Spider-Man and I drew Spider-Girl all the time and I was telling them. And this little boy runs up, like, oh, I know that's Spider-Girl. And I was telling them about current Spider-Man or something. And sometimes I did mention One More Day, but I was like, yeah, somebody just didn't like them getting married, but one day they'll be back. And then everybody was like, yay! Because I'm starting these kids off right, which is terrible. I am a terrible.
Oh, God.
I made them all cry once because I was like, they're like, what are the comics like, Miss Nerd? And I'm like, oh, what do you like? We like the Hulk.
He's dead.
He's dead. And I told them that they cried.
Oh, no.
I was like, guys, it's okay. And they're like, why did they kill him?
Oh, no. Oh, God, Nerd. What the hell?
They screamed. And one kid's like, yeah! And I'm like, what's wrong with you? And it turns out he was a DC fan. But, so... they start crying about that, and then they ask me about Rhodey. They're like, what about Iron Man? And I'm just like shifting my eyes. It's like, no! And I'm trying to explain all of it, and they're just in horror.
Okay. You should have told him like Tony Stark's in a coma.
Yeah, no, I did. And they
no!
By a small child, and then they're all like, no! They were all
you should have said, hey, guess what? Iron Man's in a coma. His replacement is diversity hire.
And they were so set. And actually, I had mostly diverse kids in my group. Mostly diverse kids liked Ant-Man. They thought it was awesome.
The first one?
No, the second one. They like the movies. So they
I thought you were talking about like I thought you were talking about the first movie.
All the kids liked Ant-Man and Iron Man and stuff. And
no, I'm playing.
I remember this. There was one white kid that wanted to be Black Panther, and like his little friend who was black wanted to be Ant-Man. And I'm like, this is the most adorable thing in the world.
Don't let those children go on Twitter. They're too innocent.
I would have. Like I've actually seen these two kids at a convention, and it was like a black and a white kid, and they were literally going around, and they were trying to find they were cosplayer. That's where I found them. They weren't one of my students. It was these kids at a convention, and apparently they were looking for. They were on the hunt for costumes, and the little white one wanted to be Black Panther, and the little black boy wanted to be Ant-Man, and I thought that was the cutest thing. That ethnicity has no they don't see ethnicity, and I was like, that is awesome. And they see the character for who they are.
Have you shown these kids Scott the Spencer Ant-Man run? Because I'm sure they'd love that. Because
if I do another course, maybe during the holidays I'll do another one of those, because I did.
Have you seen Marvel's trade solicits?
No, I haven't. I should go check them out. I mean, I did give them Moon Girl and the Double Dinosaur. They like that.
I mean, it's for kids.
Tore up the comics, and I kind of twitched. I got kind of pissed at that. But if you're kids, I whatever.
Yeah, they.
I was like, no. They're like, you okay? And I'm like, yeah, kids, I'll be fine. And I'm just like, oh gosh, why? I spent $20 and I was like, I was so pissed because I spent $40 and this kid just tears up and I'm like, why?
I remember I think it's the May solicits, like just before Fresh Start launches.
Yeah.
They're going to be having Spencer's Ant-Man put in a complete collection. There's a lot of complete collections coming out that I'm really interested in looking at. Like they're putting Wade's Captain America in a trade, the Wade Samney run right now. I want that trade. I've got a long trade list lined up on my in-stock trades account.
Oh, that's right. I was supposed to tell you. So this one kid in one of the classes announces he knows who that is. That's Mayday Parker, and I was like, oh, that's very good. And I start telling something about like current Spider-Man run. You know, I'm kind of bitter, so I'm like, you know, they're just doing whatever. It's dumb. And then he's like, but he'll marry Mary Jane. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, yeah, maybe he'll marry Jane. It's like, of course he does, because then he has Mayday Parker who comes and saves the world, and he's telling everyone it. And then I realize the MC2 and he reads all of it, and like his parents gave him all the MC2 and he thinks this is the future.
No, Vash, it's not an omnibus. It's just when you know how like Slot has those big time complete collections. It's just like it's in the same format. It's just volume 1. They're collecting the issues 1 through 15. I want also that What If. I'm happy though because this is the best treatment Mayday's gotten in years.
Yeah, no, I like Mayday, so I'll be happy to read that. I probably will pick it up. Do you ever play Spider-Man Unlimited?
I did, and then it got way too microtransaction-y, so I didn't want to shill them and give them money, so I quit the game.
I never gave them money. I gave them money once, and that was it, like $5, and I never did it again. I'm pretty good. Like, I'll come in when they're doing something I like, and that's about it. But I only pick my favorite Spider-Man, and everything else has to go. So if I get like a superior Spider-Man, only hold it on for as long as needed, and then I chuck it across the room. Gwen Stacy and Silk always go, and so I have this like repertoire of Spider Girls, and I have like Titan, Black Spider Girl, the symbiotic Spider Girl, 2 of those, and Spider Girl Blue, April Parker, and those are like, and Annie. And
that's it?
And no, I got like a ton of MJ. I got a wedding dress and a Venom MJ.
Wait, what is the? How many adaptations of how many characters do they just have there now? They're like way too many.
Every single one that's given out, but the wedding dress Venom MJ is actually a variant from Renew Your Vows that got really popular.
Oh, I think is it one of the Artgerm covers?
I forget. It's just that it's MJ in a wedding dress, but the Venom has taken over. It's a really cool looking picture.
I think that is one of the Artgerm variants.
Maybe. I actually have one of his Artgerm variants for Renew Your Vows 1. That is the only variant I picked up because drop dead gorgeous. Like they dish out. I wanted to do a comparison on variants later on in a cover it issue and just talk about how you know what's a good purchase in a variant. Because like we talked about this, that we had friends that are spending like $1K on them.
Yeah, Anime Hunter. I don't know what he does for a living, but I'm kind of jealous, and I kind of want to have his kind of money so that I can live in a nice place and be able to support myself.
I know, right? And like get all the Xbox games you want, but no,
PC Master Race. I'm kidding. I have an Xbox and I never use it, but I need to use it because it takes up space on my desk.
No, I agree with you with PC Master Race stuff, but the issue is though, like look at like they do this just to get money and be like we're fine and stuff. So I'm like, why do you do this? Especially because they're making crap for crap's sake. Like, and that's one of them. Except for Artgerms, like I was like, I want a variant because this is a series I want to support and love forever. What's a good one? And so I'm looking up every single one. I don't like what's his name? Campbell.
J. Scott Campbell, yeah. I'm the Crawl Space staff loves him. I don't know why, but I find his faces are weird.
No. All the faces, all the characters are identical.
Like, I remember someone on Co gave Caselli shit because everyone has Mary Jane's face, and I'm like, well, no, they all have like small blemishes and give them differences.
Yeah, that's
like J. Scott Campbell is notorious for
That's
same face.
That's why they don't let him draw for the comics. He's only a pinup person because that's all he can draw.
I mean, to be fair, he is a good pinup artist.
Yeah, he's great, but it's all the damn same thing. And I'm sorry, you can only do so much with that. I mean, it's fine for a point, but at the same time, what are you freaking doing? But so yeah, and they're like $300, and I don't think his artwork, so I was like, I'm not going to do it. But it was really cool though. Like he did the themes thing, which is dating, marriage,
honeymoon. Yeah.
And it was those three, and I was like, that's kind of cool, but I'm not spending $400. No.
Okay, so Great Gun Shogun says, I want a new Spider-Girl book by DeFalco and with art by Gerardo Sandoval. Okay, so have you been reading Venom?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, hell no. I don't read any.
Okay, so right now, Gerardo Sandoval is the Venom artist, and it's god-awful. It's not bad at times, but when you get, like, human characters, it looks horrendously bad. So I'm just not sure that Mayday is a good fit for Sandoval. Like, Venom himself is fine, but when you get into the other characters, it looks disgusting. Like Venom, I'm gonna see if my camcorder works because I have a copy of Venom Inc. Omega that I did for a review once, and if it'll work, then
please show me the nightmare. Please show it to me. I must.
Is it not okay?
You know me. I'm a crazy psychopath that will go and restore artwork if you ask me nice enough.
Hey, I'm gonna try and find okay, my camera is not working, so I'm just gonna find a scan and send it to you.
Share screen it or something if you want.
Yeah, I'm just gonna
like.
But it's like it's really pointy. It's so geometric. I don't like it. It's just a matter of taste.
You're geometric.
No, but it's like excessively geometric. Like, hang on, I'll send you one of the covers for
You know what Scott Campbell's art reminds me of at times? Like, I look at him and all of them look the same. It's kind of like there's a famous artist, the famous, like, manga creator. He wrote Captain Harlock, Galaxy Express, and so forth. Most of the women look all the same. Like, they're like the main character, Tetsuro, he talks about Metalel kind of looking like his mom. And I'm like, of course she does. Everybody looks the same. All you have to do is take off their hair, and they all look the damn same. Like he draws.
Okay, so I just sent you a reference for what Sandoval draws like.
All right, and that's like what these people draw like. And oh,
yeah, I'm gonna screen share it for people who yeah.
That's a lot of muscle.
Yeah, it's kind of like, remember when Eddie became an anti-hero? It's very 90s reminiscent. And I guess that's
90s is fine at a point, but sometimes not.
Yeah, it's just like, oh my god.
There's a lot of problems with dealing with what to do with, like, they're doing Venom because they know he's cool and all, and they can get sales, but it's like they don't want to really give what's wanted because they have this, like, mindset that if you give the fans what they want, they won't come back. It's like, what if they come back? Like, look at what happens at DC. It's like, we're gonna get, we have like Clark and Lois married and they have a kid. Everybody's like coming back. They're like, what? And then they're like, now we have John and let's go and do a mini. And it's like, there's an adventure where they don't do anything except
they go to a fair. It's fun. It's comfy.
It's so comfy, and you're like, oh, but it's so cheesy, Superman. And it's like he's teaching his son these things. And it's like, I want that in a cartoon now. Like, would it be cool if they did the Justice League and like they want to do a recap episode or another season? Would it be great if they did a future and they showed John Kent and Damian?
I mean, that depends on how DC Animation wants to go, because they have greater editorial restrictions by Warner Brothers.
Yeah. I mean, at least I have to say though, they know what they're doing though in their animation department. They're all like, you can do this, but they usually do well. I know that their latest stuff wasn't the best, but I think Bruce Timm needs a break.
Justice League Dark was I don't think it was bad, but it needed some different voice direction.
Okay. I actually want to see it. I heard it was good.
They have the worst casting agency ever, though, because
voice acting.
Yeah, but like, okay, so I know people in the thread are revolting against me because I don't like Gerardo Sandoval, but I'm gonna give some artists a highlight to some artists I do like, because we're here and I love art and I think Nerd knows that very well because
we're artists. We talked all night about America's Chavez and how we'd fix it.
Okay, so first off, of artists that we're both very familiar with, Jorge Jimenez.
I can't remember everybody's names, so
he's the guy who did that county fair issue of Superman.
Oh my God!
The Super Sons. This is a cover he did for the holiday special this past year, and it's great because it's very Japanese, granted, but it has good anatomy.
Wait a minute, how did he do Mario Sanchez? I love that guy.
Yeah, he's a
Super Sons. I'm always stoked when he does the Super Sons issues. I'm like, is he doing the Super Sons issues? Like, he's doing the cover. I'm like, good enough.
Yeah, and it's like, holy crap, it's good stuff, and it's anatomically correct, and yes, there's exaggerated proportions, but at the same time, there's a certain realism behind it.
Yeah, and also, his heavy emphasis is a great way to merge. He knows how to merge American and Japanese without it looking stupid. He literally drew pictures like the Teen Titans crossover. They had Superman, and he looks great. And it's like, I never thought Superman could look good in a fairly anime style, but he took it, and he's like.
Have you seen the Superman number 20 cover? The one where he's like lifting the Earth?
No, I didn't.
Go look it up. It's an amazing cover.
What is it? Superman Rebirth 20?
Yes. It's a variant cover, but it's a Jorge Jimenez work. It's him lifting the Earth, and he's got the most cheerful expression on his face. Like,
oh my gosh, it's beautiful! I'm crying.
And he also draws a very good Lois Lane. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, like, he does an excellent Lois Lane, but it also helps that the story is so good. Yeah, this is like what you see into there, and I could see in in an anime version of Superman, I could see him having squinty eyes. Like, that's how I see Superman, as this kind of buffer guy with squinty eyes, but he knows how to draw him, and it's great. And he puts in the iconic things, like, I think it's him or several artists do this. They give John the classic curl as well.
It's cute.
It's cute, and it shows his father's side to things, like, in his life, and that is just, it's needed. And this is what you could do, and this is actually making Superman popular. What they did, a event that nobody really like marketed. It was just another fun event, and they're like, this is going to be a fun event, have fun, and it was only like 2 issues long. Superman road trip. They did nothing in it.
I remember Diversity in Comics hated that issue.
Everybody else was like, this is so beautiful. Like, it was kind of something you needed during the time that we had so many people that were just like, I hate my country and stuff. And it was like, our country is terrible. And you just felt like scum. And this book reminded you that there's so much to be thankful for and living in our country. I don't know if you guys live in our country who are listening to this podcast, but sometimes, like, we live in first world countries. We should understand we have some great things. And America does have its problems, but there's some beautiful things. Like, they went in and they were all like, hey, look, there's these people and they're fighting about stuff. And it's like, they both have like disagreements, but look how the beauty is that we can actually say it, freedom of speech, because our government, it allows us
the fastest dictatorship.
Yeah. And I was like, that is such a good thing to say, Superman, because we have to remember, isn't it beautiful that we're allowed to say this stuff?
But yeah, Jimenez. Next on the artist showcase that I love of people, Sarah Pacelli. She is good art.
What is her art? Show art.
She this is her cover for the Free Comic Book Day for Avengers. And yeah, I mean, have you read the Miles Morales run? She was a person who designed Miles and did the first like 20 or so issues of his solo run, and then David Marquez took over.
Wait, there's actually a good female artist that they haven't scared away?
Yeah, there's actually a few, I think.
How did they not scare them away?
Guru Hiru is 2 women.
2 women, but it's so freakishly shocking when you know how they've treated half their, like, they're picking a lot of artists just because they're cheap.
I mean, I'm not really a big fan of that Iron Man faceplate. Like, I love the Pentagon armor.
But
that armor is weird.
Yeah, I think they're doing like the classic, one of the older classic styles. But at the same time, I'm beginning to wonder, is this just done, like, is she just a pinup artist? Because I know I've had, I've actually talked to, I went through a few seminars with just pinup artists at cons. And I recall one of them actually talking about, like, I will never work with DC again because he screwed me over, but I did try to go to Marvel a few times, and it was like this interesting story of how they all, like, they will try and screw you over, and you will have to bite your neck into that, like, you'll have to bite them by the neck and grab them down to ensure that you at least get paid a decent amount.
But yeah, there's lots of good female artists. It's just they never give the good ones a spotlight.
Why? Because they want the stupid ones because they're in a. You want to know what? I suspect, because it's like my crazy psychopathic let's alert feminism is tingling, and I suspect if I want to be a crazy psychopath, which I kind of do at points, is that what if they only pick the weaker and dumber women because they secretly are sexist and they want only women that they can control, and that they want women to look stupid.
But next on the showcase is Stefano Caselli. I love this man. He's a good artist. I know you don't like I know you don't like Riri, but he does on a technical level. He is a good artist.
Yeah, he's good.
I love his Spider-Man. His Spider-Man is a phenomenal interpretation.
That's a good Spider-Man. I'm gonna admit it. Give me something I can actually enjoy looking at, though, man.
Hang on. This is a good one.
I'm a horrible person. Oh, that's a great one. Wow.
I've got this picture right here. I've got a poster of it on my wall.
Who's the colorist? Because that's phenomenal coloring.
I want to say it's. Hang on, let me look it up. It's slot era, granted, but everything that that's on a technical level, like of that digital coloring, is post slot era. So that's what we gotta live with. It's I know what issue it's from. It's from
He destroyed the color, so the colorist left post slot era.
Yeah. ASM 666. How telling. Marty Gracia. He's the guy who does the colors for ASM right now. He also does Iron Man.
Like, it's amazing. Like, they still have a bit of talent left in there that is like so wonderful, but it's like, why do you give it crappy books?
I like this cover with he is very good at textures.
Yeah, this is the kind of stuff you need.
There's a reason, like, and you know how in Friend Neighborhood I have like a preferred artist.
Yeah.
For each issue, there's a reason Caselli is the main highlighted artist for most of them, because he is good on a technical level, and I can live with it. And I love his art; it's good stuff. And granted, there's a couple of like his early stuff is a bit clunky. Like this is from the Initiative, and there's a couple of problems with it, but overall, it is still technically a very well choreographed.
Yeah,
piece of art.
It's amazing. Like, I'm just sitting here and I'm like, you have artists. You have female artists. Like, that actually shocks me because I thought all the female artists left. Like, literally, most of the artists I knew that were female left immediately after they learned that they were going to get screwed over and pay, kind of thing.
Next up, David Marquez. He is a Bendis follower.
Yeah, he's a Bendis artist. He does a lot for Bendis. I know
he did Civil War II. He did Miles Morales. He did a couple of issues of Iron Man. I liked those issues of Iron Man. I hate Deodato. I know people like Deodato, but I hate Deodato. But he is a very good artist. He's like the closest thing we've got to Alex Ross in terms of realism.
Yeah.
With a very good emphasis on expression. I just really, that's Jim Chung. I know people like him, but I'm not the biggest fan of Jim Chung. I respect him, but it's not like my thing. But Marquez has a very good understanding of anatomy and the fate, and he's also one of the artists that brought back Black Cat to the good side. So he gets a lot of credit in my book.
Wait, is Black Cat a good guy now?
Kind of. Okay, so do you care if I spoil Defenders for you?
Hell no.
Okay, so basically Diamondback came back for a bit, and he was kind of become the new Kingpin, which got in Black Cat's way. So she went to find him, and so he shot her, and so she got into the hospital, and later on she became a good guy, and she shot Diamondback with a gun. And she's like, "Oh yeah, guess who's back, bitch."
I think that's stupid.
And okay, but then she sold out. She walks free because she's like trying to put her past behind her and be a good guy again. And I know it's not that simple, but that's what they're trying to
You want to
justify it with.
maybe they should actually learn to write and stop it that she must become evil because Otto Octavius is a wife beater and he went all hog like hardcore because he has a problem with pretty women. Like he put on an interview he hates it, MJ and Felicia because they're pretty and they'll never understand Peter. And then I see this and I'm like, sexual aggression, sexual. You have some.
And I know I'm gonna get shot for this, but I do like some of Ramos's work. There's parts of it that is tolerable.
Yeah.
But like, you remember that issue of Superior where he marches on Hell's Kitchen with the robot army?
No, because I don't read Superior that often because it makes me cringe. And
Okay, but he has a very his style lends itself very well to bulbous designs.
Yeah.
And so like when you see like his giant spider robots, like they're essentially tanks with legs. They're very well designed because hang on, I'm gonna bring
brace yourselves, guys. We have to watch the cringe. I don't care if that's what's in the chat or whatever watching me. I see
I'm trying to find examples of this because
like sometimes I feel bad, and then I'll go to Doug and go, should I feel bad? And then he reminds me.
He'll bring you back to common sense. I need to talk to Doug more often. Like, bring him on a stream.
I'm like, hey Doug, should I feel bad? And then he's like, no. And then he like explains to me everything, like, and then he reminds me why I have this inner hatred. I'm like, I don't feel that bad anymore. It's like you shouldn't go right ahead.
You never should have, nerd.
And I'm like, thank you. Because like sometimes he'll do things, and I'm like, then why? Why do I hate this so much? And it's like because you have sense of like righteousness or whatever. I'm like, I love you.
I'm trying to find a picture of the tanks, but I remember liking Ramos back when I had no common sense. But there's parts of him I still do like just because I grew up with him, and I do think some of his designs have promise. Like the Superior Spider-Man suit, that's his design.
Oh, nice. Oh shit! Did you know that ever since I started that store that I posted it online?
Oh yeah, I was there. I was watching the whole thing.
Like everybody's just gone nuts or something, and I find that
really like be an artist, and I might seize you before Marvel does because.
Sweet. Well, they're gonna screw me over out of money anyway.
Well, I mean, I might have to because I'm poor and I have no money. But
well, you want to know what? You could seize me and I'll do some of it for free because you want to know what? I like your work and
I have definite character concepts. So
you want to know what? I'd rather like join people like Timothy Lim in like that kind of sense.
In Bun.
Yeah, G.I. Usagi. Who does not want to read that? And you want to know what? He respects people, and I'm like, you want to know what? I wouldn't mind joining the Anarch Press or these.
Oh hell yeah, boy!
If I could write Spider-Man, hell yeah, I'd write Spider-Man. But they're never going to pick me. They're never going to pick me because I'm.
They're definitely not going to pick me because I fight editorial. I'd fight editorial.
You would fight tooth and nail, and you want to know what? I would too. I would in fact go on Twitter immediately when I'm chosen. Go, I wonder what I should do for my next thing, and go hashtag in one more day. And when they say no, I announce on Twitter, looks like editorial decided to say no to me and stuff, and like make sure they know who did it. So they'll know who's stopping all this. So they know me being a terrible dick and then prove that we need this back because I'm a horrible person.
Oof. If you and I are kind of like the Imminents, like we work together on everything, and then like eventually we just, for some reason, just kind of diverge and we just disappear from the public eye.
Then we come back and we secretly start our evil legion to save Spider-Man.
We started AIM.
We started AIM. Oh my god, yes. But not stupid AIM. I don't know anything about it.
Competent AIM.
Yeah. And you want to know what I'm shocked? If I did a Civil War, I would have done, like, if I was during that time, I would have written a story about a new villain that emerged after it, and it's revealed during the first Civil War. A bunch of lackeys, like grunts and so forth, realized, like, one of them realized that the heroes are too busy fighting each other to notice the
I remember this concept. This is on the Vine, right?
Yeah, like, think about it. Like, of course they'll notice Kingpin. They'll notice everybody else, but they will never notice because they're just causing so much chaos in the streets. Everybody's fleeing. There's destruction everywhere. They're letting criminals get away because the cops are having to deal with all the backlash too. So it's like pretty much this is a villain's plethora. Like immediately they're able to steal weapons and guns without people knowing. Like they start off small. They don't rob people straight out. They find where people are evacuating and go in where the heroes are fighting each other. That's where they go because then they can go in and steal the shit and then pretend to be runners, like escapees and so forth. And that's how they start it. And they make a criminal empire by acquiring things and stealing information and so forth and stealing pieces of the weaponry that was left over during these events and battles. And so they manage to gather it, and this becomes a new Kingpin. And it's realized this is because of your own stupidity. This is because of your own ignorance. Both sides, because you were too stubborn and had too much pride to sit down and actually talk it out, we have new problems. And that's what I feel like we need more of, is these things where the repercussions are realistic and understandable. And yeah, just talking about like, hey, you made a civil war where in our country this shouldn't happen and you're not the king of the almighty pretty princess, okay? You're like freaking Jersey Shore. Shut up. We have a government, deal with it. Like, I just don't understand why on earth are these people having a temper tantrum. And like, yeah, I get it at the same time, but also, like, you're letting people die and innocent people because you're having a political debate. And apparently superheroes solve political debates by exploding.
And killing off their black people.
Yeah, killing only black people. I'm never getting over that because that is just so freaking funny. Like, if they're like, we're so diverse, I like to point this out. Like, if I went to a panel, I'm like, if you're so diverse, why do only black people die in your Civil War series? They would kick me out fast, but it would be so funny. And then be like, and why did you whitewash Rhodey Rhodes' War Machine?
You put Frank in the Frankmobile.
How dare you?
I've fallen for the co-meme that whenever Franks kill someone, it's just called franking.
I'll be frank about this.
Ah!
Sorry, I saw the opportunity.
No, okay. Have you ever seen the Principal Skinner memes?
You mean the ones that everybody knows about steamed hams?
Oh no, I'm talking about like the Bane posting where someone would dress up where they'd have like the Bane. You remember Dark Knight Rises, where the CIA guy goes, "Bane, I'm CIA." Remember that?
I think so.
So that became an entire different meme, and so now CIA guy is his own meme, and then Principal Skinner like sitting on the plane, sitting in front of the plane, going, "Bart, I'm CIA." It's just weird. I've fallen for that meme. It's a good meme because it's funny.
I should ask Chad about this. Chad knows all the memes. He teaches me the ways of the memes sometimes. He's like, I don't know about memes. And I'm like, yeah, Chad. And he's like, I'll teach you about memes.
Chad is my new husbando. He knows how to do the memes.
He knows all the memes. He goes on Reddit sometimes.
Does he not? No, has he gone on 4chan ever though? Has he ever gone on 4chan?
Go and ask him about that. I should well, I'll get Chad on sometime so you could go and talk to him about 4chan. I think he's been on like once, but he's like, dude, I don't know how to talk on 4chan. You know, you gotta lurk and just gotta know what stuff to do. Like that's how I feel at least. I'm like, I'm not part of 4chan. I don't think 4chan would like me because I would come in and go, well, hi, what's up? And then they'll be like, get out of here, like fag or whatever they call you. I don't know. And I'll be like, that's not very nice. They're like, or get the F out. GTFO. Damn it.
I just lurk on Co. I never post, but my experience on Co has just been pleasant per se.
Didn't you post once that the Jean Grey thing I posted on my video?
Oh yeah, the gay stare.
Yeah, the gay stare of death.
It got like 8 replies, and most of them were just replies to it. It's like there's that one picture. What's that kid from the Boondocks? It says moi op. I'm gay, and everyone just replied to that. It's like delete this.
It is a nightmarish picture. I'm like, how did that thing exist? Is like my nightmare is that like that thing. I don't want to be rude to these artists because they managed to get into an industry I cannot get into.
Even though you and I are both far.
Yeah, and we should not even be part of that industry either way. Like we're not
considering how cancerous it is.
Yeah, but not only that, like our artwork, if it was the 90s, we never make it in because we don't have the
edge.
We don't have the ability. We're not fully experienced. We could go into training, of course, but in today's climate, you can get in just because you say the right things and because you kiss enough butt or something. And you know the right people. It is a monarchy. Everything's a monarchy there, which sucks.
Yeah. I don't draw enough pouches or guns or muscles.
That's the 90s. Yeah. Nowadays it's flat chests and Tumblr art. Like Tumblr's all about what is it? Flat art, no shading.
I mean, to be fair, I kind of fell for that meme at one point. I'm not very good at shading, so.
Well, that's fine if you actually draw people in a certain way because their idea is that most people have to. It's purging femininity. That's a big thing. It's purging femininity.
Carl Manvers.
I think I wrote this online during the time that they were a lot of people were talking about you made America look female or something, or it was for the Fire Emblem thing, and I explained that Tumblr art is usually from what I recall, like I was younger too, and I'm like, I don't want to make girls with big boobs or something. I don't want to make them look too girly, so I tried making them flat tests and stuff, and they still look girly because they made them with anime eyes and stuff. But I realized they're more fun when you draw them with the curse. They're much more fun, and they're more iconic with female traits. Cause now they all look mean, and I don't like drawing them mean. And that's a fear of because they're growing up in a society that tells them that femininity equals weakness. So,
let's make all our women strong and independent by making them men.
Yeah, pretty much. That's why sometimes I'm sitting here and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that if there's any misogynists,
it's y'all.
It's Marvel. It's Marvel higher ups, and they're manipulating all their artists to believe that that females need to be strong, so they should get rid of the booze for sexism. But in reality, because they can't stand women.
But yeah, like remember that cover I was working on last night? This one.
Yeah.
There's at least a technical understanding of shading. There's shading on the lights, and even here there's at least an understanding of shadow and where it would go. But you don't see that in Marvel. Like Chris Anka's art is flat as hell.
There's only like a selected few that can do it, and it's usually their higher tier artists, but they give the right colorists as well to only the higher tier. And it's pretty obvious which ones they're giving their stuff to because and the other ones that they don't care about because they're just here for the diversity thing. They're not even supposed to last because when they don't last, we can blame it on sexism.
Yeah.
That is literally how they roll because they called us all sexist. They were like, your books then. And we were like, okay, we won't buy your books. And then they said, you're all sexist. We're not buying your books. It's like, bitch, we got lies.
I don't even have enough money to buy comic books nowadays.
Like, holy crap, everything's so damn expensive. I mean, I would buy trades more, but at the same time, it's like, but they need the money. Like, they need these to alert people that people are buying them.
Yeah, like trade sales won't save them. Like, I have a very long wish list of trades that I'm hoping I can buy eventually.
Yeah.
But it's like I can't afford to buy them all. I have a very large list.
Yep.
And I was just able to budget 2 trades into my budget for the semester. Even then, I still feel like I'm kind of spending money pointlessly.
Yeah, like sometimes it's spending so much on books. They gotta be good.
Yeah.
One of my friends actually said it. Comics and so forth. He says, so much in comics, it's gotta be good. It's gotta be good in order to do it. And he's really picky. He's incredibly picky. Like I'm like, this is a good one. He goes, it's not good enough. I won't read it again. So why would I buy? Like, and that, like, he's telling me, like,
Nerd, I think you cut out.
Oh, sorry. He says, like, if you're not gonna buy it again, don't pick it up. Like, don't. I mean, if you're never gonna read it again, don't buy it.
Yeah.
And he's right. Like, you're so smart, man.
I mean, everyone's like, oh, Carol doesn't have any interesting runs. And it's like, that's not true. I mean, she's not exactly the most interesting character, but she's got good runs, like the Brian Reed run when she was still Miss Marvel.
Yeah, Miss Marvel usually tends to be her best runs because, you know, editorial wasn't in place and it was before the sagas and so forth, which was when they got into new management, and new management decided we hate everything. I don't care what people say about Quesada. Quesada, I feel, is part of it. You went crazy. You know how to fix it for 5 minutes, blew it up again.
And I'll be honest, I do like the all new, all different Captain Marvel run, the one where she became the head of Alpha Flight.
Yeah,
because it was a well written run. I mean, the art is a bit of a turnoff, but at the same time, it's a well written book.
I think I heard in one of those that there's actually a journal, and it's called "Fuck Marvel." I had to find it again, and I believe that's the one they talk about that she wasn't that she found out that marketing wasn't going to market her stuff. They were only, like, it's true because we all know the advertisement section of Marvel.
Was it Butters or
what?
Was it Butters and Fabella?
I don't know. I have to find the journal again. Like, I can't find it again.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna look up if Tara Butters said anything because
I don't think it was Tara Butters, but it was that they literally were like the marketing or whatever, the advertisement area, you know, where they have to market the books, won't give money to these books. So she literally, and you want to know what? This journal was great because it actually didn't pick a side. They actually said Mockingbird probably would have been a good run if they actually had marketing. I'm like, no, it wouldn't have. But,
Chelsea Kane. That's Chelsea Kane who wrote that.
What? The Mockingbird or what?
Yeah, Chelsea Kane.
No, I'm not talking. But yeah, I'm just saying that was one example is they took a very neutral route, but they were saying Marvel was a monster. So then they were talking about Carol Danvers, and they're talking about the writer on that one, and they're saying that apparently she had no money to do. Like, they're not going to advertise it, so she had to go and do her own pocket, and she started making keychains or something to give to people to hype them up for this.
Was it Kelly Sue DeConnick? Because I remember she did the Carol Corps thing.
She, I think, was. Like, she was the one that was desperately trying to find a way to alert people about the book. But there was so much she could only do because, you know, she's not paid a lot and so forth. And
so I remember the Carol Corps thing was her thing. So that might be Kelly Sue DeConnick. That
may have been. And it's like, holy shit, you kidding me? And it was like, and I'm reading this, and apparently she confessed this on a tweet. That people are like, so I like, you're selling these? Like, where can I get it at Marvel? And she goes, sorry, I'm the only one making them, or something like that. And it was like somebody managed to get her to talk, and it was like, they won't give me money for this. They're not going to market it, and they know it.
Oh God, our chat, the chat section has turned into boof.
What?
Look in the comments in the chat section of the stream. It's boof. It's boof hard. Boof hard 2. Boof harder. Boof hard with a vengeance. Live free or boof hard.
Guy. It's the that guy on the Twitter that doesn't like us or something?
Bash the ashtray.
Bash
this, I think.
No, there's a guy with that same icon, and he was having a debate today on the Twitters.
I don't want to say I know who it is because I don't use Twitter. Boof Formers 2, Revenge of the Buffin.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just because it's an iconic picture. I don't know.
Boof.
God, there's like so many things that are so wrong with today's Spider-Man. I'm sorry, I'm gonna bitch forever, but
no, you're good. We all need to bitch.
Yeah, I could just say it forever, but yeah, we're here for Nick Spencer stuff, and you pretty much know what I say. I just say, right now it's like they're weak. Let's go break their leg. Like they're on their last legs. We should do the killing blow.
I'll get the bat.
Like I feel like this is if there's ever a chance we can get one more day to end within this era, this is the moment. This is the friggin' moment. Because let's face it, we are on they're on their 4th reboot.
In 3 years, right?
Yeah, within a very limited little amount of time, they're on their new reboot. They're refreshing everything, and it's slowly becoming more and more obvious we're not going to get what we want out of this reboot. Like, yeah, we're going to get Thor with a hammer. It's unknown if it's going to be his hammer. Still Captain America is going to be the same old Captain America, and they're going to give Ta-Nehisi Coates on it. Nick Spencer's going to be on Spider-Man, but it's already known Mary Jane will not be the love interest, and they're going to try like 400 new ones. And this is the guy that made Captain America into a Nazi.
I do think that Turkish brought worse in reverse. I think that's going a little too far. He's not going to make Peter an Antifa ally who turns into a woman. That's a little too straw manish.
Yeah, but let's face it, it's not going to be a good run. It's not going to be interesting. And
I'm cautiously optimistic on this.
I vote, but here's the thing: if we want to send a message, I want to encourage. I am a terrible person.
But everyone's a terrible person.
I encourage
others.
Get more people to stop buying Spider-Man completely. If we can start a movement like Spider-Man No More, and we alert people about what's been going on, like I don't even know, like maybe we can get it kicked out of schools if we tell them that Spider-Man's been dealing with Satan all this time. Like,
I mean, them Christian parents, those Christian soccer moms.
Oh yeah,
don't speak anything.
Yeah, that'll be great. No, like these shit will go nuts, and then we can go tell the feminists about how the sexism and rape was amassed into this, and then people will stop reading the books completely, and then they'll finally have to start listening to us because we finally got our revenge.
I'll give you a hug, nerd. I'll buy you a beer and give you a hug and say it's okay.
I hate everything. Use my gender, okay? They use me and they're like, look, I'm doing it for you. I hate everything you're doing. Shh. No, don't shh me, bitch.
I'll buy you DC The New Frontier for your birthday.
I just want DC's nice. I like DC.
Have you not read The New Frontier?
No.
Oh.
That.
It's a really, if you know who Darwin Cook is, remember that issue of Superman where he and John go to Dinosaur Island?
Yeah.
Those 2 issues were a tribute to Darwin Cook because he had died that past year, and so those issues were a tribute to him.
Oh no.
He also did like one of the cutest Spider-Man. It's a marriage related art. I'm gonna send it to you in the Discord, but it's a really well made. It's a Christmas issue, I think.
Yes, please.
But Darwin Cook, he's a cool guy. He wrote this. He drew it. It's an amazing piece of work, and it's like, so you know how Civil War basically registered all superheroes.
Yeah.
New Frontier kind of works like they banned all the superheroes, so like it still takes place in the Golden Age. Like I can read you the brief synopsis on the collection. It takes place during the Cold War, when and superhero paranoia and paranoia just kind of outlaws the heroes of the Golden Age. Yeah. So the heroes are still fighting together, but like they're still trying to fight for truth and justice. But then the Justice League comes together for a new future, and so it kind of transitions them into the Justice League. It's sort of like a remake of the origin story of the Justice League.
That's neat.
It's a really good run. It's old, but it's a really solid piece. I'm trying to find the image of
problem being old. Like the more I go into this era and stuff, I find that the older stuff usually tends to be best. Like I find new comic fans are actually reading more of the old stuff. Like
like I'm 19. I prefer like JMS era stuff to slot.
I've heard from a lot of fans, like even on Tumblr, and they're like, "Yeah, I like Spider-Man. I read it." And I'm like, "Oh, cool. What era do you read?" I'm like, and they're like, "I read around the '90s, the '70s, and stuff. I like the '70s the most." And it turns out none of them will read the new stuff. They're like, "Oh gosh, why would I?" And it's like, "Ew, the slot stuff, gross." Like they hate it. They don't like it.
But yeah, I sent you an image. It's a very good interpretation of Peter and MJ and Aunt May. It's very Bruce Timm in terms of style, but
I like. Oh yeah, I think I've seen that art piece before.
yeah, it's good stuff. I guess I'll screenshot it and share it with everybody else.
Yeah, what's with all the tinies? But I know most of these characters. I think there's Flash.
And I think that's Liz Allen too.
Yeah, that's Liz Allen. There, Johnny Storm's in the background with the
and Jameson and Marla. No one cares about Marla though. Marla is pointless.
A ton of babies.
I don't know why there's so many babies. I think it probably makes sense in the issue, but
there's probably they're helping orphans or something. Is this when Aunt May was running an old folks home in her house?
This was way after. Like,
you know what? That was a cool idea. They should have. What really is also a problem with Spider-Man is they keep changing stuff. When things go the right way or an interesting route, it immediately goes away. And I think that the old folks home was a great idea. I think Peter being a teacher was a great idea. And sometimes I think that Mary Jane being a psychiatrist was actually a very creative idea. And they've annulled all of these things. Also, annulled Mary Jane even being a actress and stuff, and now look at her, she's like a wimpy little thing, and I'm like, Mary Jane used to be cool and stuff, and you were the party girl, the badass, the outgoing one, the warrior.
You beat Chameleon with a baseball bat. You used to be cool.
You crashed your car into a spider slayer. You used to like take initiative.
She ran a truck into Green Goblin.
Oh yeah, that was cool. And
I mean, that was ultimate, but still.
She wielded
she shot Green Goblin.
Yeah, that's right. She bought a gun in the 90s.
And then used it in Marvel Knights.
I will never, I hope to never use this. And she used it in Marvel Knights, and it was revealed she actually doesn't know how to use a gun.
And I love when the Green Goblin's just fucking with Peter's like, hey, I got your wife a bridge just for her.
Oh yeah.
It's an original bridge.
You dick. I love that.
And then Dr. Octopus comes and fucks everything up. And then I love that kind of camaraderie that Peter and Norman had in that run. Like they hate each other, at the same time they respect each other. It's the point where Norman mails Peter a letter, like saying, yeah, I'm done dicking with you. You can live your life. Yeah.
You want to know the best version of him I liked of Norman, because it just made so much sense. It was when Mary Jane was supposedly dead. And
Death in the Family, Norman.
Yeah,
I love that one. Like the Ramos art was bad, but like the writing was top notch.
It was him literally stating the reason he fucks with Peter is because he sees Peter as the successor, and it was so interesting because Peter's been tortured for days, and they're electrocuted and so forth, being told something over and over again, drugged to high heaven on goblin serum, so he keeps seeing nightmares. And he goes and like he's just on the floor, like totally just catatonic, and he begs Norman, why do you do this? Why do you hate me so much? And he says, I don't hate you, Peter, I love you, and that's why I'm doing this. And it's like revealed that Norman was a lot like when Harry had little Normie, he was going to kidnap him, but he realized he saw Spider-Man watching him over the building like day after day. This is what Peter would do. He would like guard them. He was protecting them, and he realized this kid is so determined and so forth. He's like, and then he realized it wasn't hatred he ever felt for Spider-Man. It was, this is my successor. And so he was trying to torture and break Peter to the extent he would finally accept that. And people ran with it, which was awesome, but only in the alternate universes.
There's that one issue where he like basically force feeds whiskey to Flash and crashes him into a building. Yeah. And then like Peter comes and says, here's our place and time, showdown at midnight, and Peter beats the shit out of him.
Yeah.
and they sit down and have that. I know people who don't like that talk.
Where he's like, I was gonna call myself the Java.
Yeah, it's like Mr. Coffee, and it's like that was fun. I know people don't like that, but I love it just because they've beaten the shit out of each other, and they both got black eyes. They just collapse next to each other, and they just start joking.
I feel like at the same time I can understand it, and that's why I don't like it. I'm like, this man murdered your daughter and murdered your first love.
Oh, no, it's implied that he murdered Mayday. It was never confirmed.
It's they like to say she died beforehand, but there was a crib. There was a crib.
So it's kind of it's ambiguous, intentionally ambiguous. I love intentional ambiguity.
I call it Schrodinger's cat. This is Schrodinger's cat. That what is the child alive or is the child dead? It is forever an anomaly, and if they ever undo one more day, you could actually bring her back and say shit like that. I would vote.
I'll have words about the Clone Saga wrapping up later on in
that's why I always highly suggest real Clone Saga. In fact, if we want to do a Superman Rebirth and we can do it with the Rainier Vast, do that one.
Just bring in real Clone Saga.
Real Clone Saga. That way people all have that 6 issues and then do a story, something that they like. Like, I don't know, you're not the real 616. Where is this?
What if they made it? What if they did? I know that people don't like the incursions, but what if they had like Peter during the incursions from Secret Wars, Peter and MJ and Mayday managed to make the jump from whatever Earth that's on to 616 before the incursions happened, and therefore they're kind of like the Ultimate Universe refugees.
Oh, okay. Maybe like that would have been cool if we. That's what I kind of wanted to see, was that there was a refugee of a certain universe, of where Peter and Mary Jane. Like that's why I was like real Clone Saga, and they're in there, and maybe there is secretly a real Ben Reilly running around. And
yeah, because I remember wasn't the Lois and the Superman convergence issues where they gave birth to John. Weren't those like retroactive convergence issues? I want to say they were retroactively added in.
They were later on. It was through when they fused the worlds together. Yeah, he was like born.
I know he was born during convergence, but like I'm trying to figure out if they retroactively added him in after Rebirth was kicked in.
From what I know, like during the future, like everything happened during Convergence, from what I know. So he was born on that universe, and they jumped him over, and he was raised on the Earth 1. And then the Reborn story fused both of those worlds together. They sewed up Superman's world together, so it became. And then you can kind of see they haven't fully gone through it. I think they're going to later on. I think that's what Man of Steel or whatever that Bendis is on. They're going to address all the missing issues, because you would read the shit out of those. So
yeah, I'm just trying to figure out like
it's like
if Superman coming back to if pre-Flashpoint Superman coming to Rebirth or New 52 Earth was like planned from the beginning, or if it was.
I think
it was retroactive.
I think they planned it because they knew Superman wasn't going well.
Yeah, I know DCU was in the toilet, so they didn't really have much.
They were like, what are we gonna do? And they knew what people wanted, and I think they did the Lois Clark story. It didn't sell well, but I think they noticed there was interest, and they're like, we'll bring him back, and we're gonna set up something. And that they were I think they were planning Rebirth for a while. Was the thing they were planning Rebirth for because it was when they finally started listening to fans. That was the thing. They went to a convention, and the fans were telling them we're very upset, and that's when they stopped and they started and then they like sat down and they like asked them what's wrong, and then they went back and they said they started with Green Arrow. They brought the Green Arrow guy in, and they said, we want you to write on this board what makes Green Arrow Green Arrow. And he's like hesitant and stuff.
Oh, Black Canary and the goatee.
Yeah, and they were like, and they said, forget the new rules. Forget all the new rules we did for 52. Write everything you know. And yeah, the first things were the goatee. Black Canary and all that other stuff. And they were like, it's the rules. The rules keep us away from being what loved. And so they decided, we're getting rid of the rules. And they called everybody in and they made them do this on a big whiteboard. And they said, tell us what is iconic about these characters. And that's when they said, we've done a disservice. We're going to fix this and everything. And they just gathered everybody together and they got their like fanboy, whatever, the golden child who's all
Jeff Johns.
He's like, I got it.
The cereal lord saved us.
I don't know how the cereal lord. What does that mean?
I don't remember where the name came from, but I think it was something to do with like I remember something about cereal. But his fans know him as Cereal Lord.
Is it breakfast cereal or like cereals like cereal
like breakfast cereal?
Oh, okay, cool, Captain Crunch. Okay, but yeah, like I guess he was eating some Cocoa Pebbles, and he was like, I got it, guys. And he's like,
but there's that one image of him with like all like you know how there's that picture of Green Lantern with all of his fingers having a lantern ring on them. Like there's a picture of Jeff Johns with like 20 rings on his fingers, and it's great. That's
great. He's like, I'm the master of everything.
Yeah, that's exactly what he looks like. Hang on, I'm gonna try and find this picture.
Doesn't Ethan Van Sciver talk about writing with him and stuff?
Yeah.
How cool
here's a picture of him. Hang on, I'm gonna put it on screen share.
But
this is a picture of John's.
Yeah, look how he's like, I have all the power.
I have the power.
The Infinity Gauntlet. Look how much I got.
How many rings I got.
It's like,
apparently his wife is also a big comic book fan, so it's like fucking hilarious.
Like, yeah, I bet she's like, look at all the Red Lantern rings I got, honey. And he's like, son of a bitch. No, she gets the Yellow Lantern ring. She's like, honey, I'm stronger than you because I got Yellow Lanterns. And we obviously
she gets red. She gets red.
Yeah, she gets red. And then he says
he loves the comics more than her, and that pisses her off.
She's like, how dare you?
Or no, that would be no, we need Hope Corgi.
Hope Corgi, actually, yeah, I always like to I always say that Ethan Van Sciver's the Hope Corgi, if anything, because he brought hope back.
Well, no, now he's Kitty Van Sciver.
Kitty Van Sciver. Oh yeah, that's right. I drew him as a cat, and everybody's like,
I want Hope Corgi. I want to own Hope Corgi.
Everybody's trying to get Jeff Johns and Ethan Van Sciver and everybody else to
canonize Hope Corgi.
Let's call it. Let's just name the Hope Corgi Hope the Corgi, who we don't know Jack like had a very sad life, but it always never lost hope. Like its owner died or something, and it still was as happy as ever and stuff. And so
all will be well.
All will be well. Like it's like, but what a wonderful life I had with my master, and he maybe got, or I don't know, he stopped him from committing suicide or something, and that's how he got his Blue Lantern ring. I don't know, something really sad. Like his story starts so sad, and then he becomes so happy.
I remember when I was doing one of the sketch covers for Friendly Neighborhood, like when the series was first kicking off, Hope Corgi was in the background of one of them.
Oh my gosh! I had to go read it again to look for it.
It's in one of the pencil variants before. I don't remember which one it was. I want to say it was number 4. Like when Peter's looking out of his window, it shows Hope Corgi flying in the distance, and I was like, "Oh wait, no, that doesn't work. It's DC's gonna sue me."
I love how our chat just like screams about MJ and stuff. I love it, but shit, yeah, the Hope Corgi is great. I like a lot of DC stuff, so everything, like, I've noticed more and more, all my trades now are DC. Like, there's only 2 Marvel, which is Renew Your Vows and The Runaways. And The Runaways, it's a group of people that are just trying, like, from what I'm seeing, is trying to fix everything that ruined The Runaways. That's all they're trying to do. Like, let's face it, The Runaways left where everybody was like destroyed and everything. They didn't answer where half of them went. Gert was dead. She was actually my favorite growing up.
Have you been reading the new run by
I'm reading the new run. Yeah, that's what I'm reading right now. It's weird how she came back, but I did like how they set everything up. So
I also did like Carolina going like, what the hell, Nico? I have a girlfriend. Don't go lesbian on me now.
Yeah, she's like, bitch, will you try that? And you didn't go that time and stuff. And she's like, listen, I just had a really long, lonely time. It's like, well, bitch, I have a girlfriend.
It's funny because where's Singularity? Who's done anything with Singularity since A-Force?
I don't not know. Nobody knows. It's dumb. But nobody does jack. But so like and of course we get the youngest one, and she's been living with her grandmother, and I like that.
Molly, it's cute. She has the psychic cats.
Yeah, but except her mom gave everybody the mutant powers in her family, or I'm hoping it means that she juiced them up, because it's like mutants can't be like spliced into being mutants. She was the mutant kid.
Like even in Transformers, spark splicing is impossible.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that it was really she was awakening their powers more, because it seems like she's a mutant. The grandmother's a mutant, but she's like got an incredible genius ability, and so she knows how to gift it to other people. And she the latest issue is she cloned her mother, and she was trying to bring her back. And I love it because like Molly is pretty much saying my grandma's not that bad, and
her mom she's literally cloning people behind her back.
Yeah, like they're outside in the backyard or like far away from their grandma, and they're just sitting there, and they're like, so we better go call the authorities on this. And and Nico's all like, I'm still technically an Avenger, I can go and call them. And Molly's like, do we really have to? Yes, Molly, we have to. Your grandmother tried to kidnap us. And it's like, she's really nice and she didn't mean it. It's like, she's cloning your mom. Maybe my mom's not that evil this time. Nope.
Your mom was a fucking Pride member.
Yeah, they were like, your mom's probably going to be as evil as usual. And they're like, do we have to? All in favor of vote, like
everyone except Molly's like, and even then she's like, yeah.
Yeah.
I got depressing.
Yeah. No, it was a good episode though. It didn't really leave on a sad note though. It was kind of like
it was happy.
And like, but at least Molly had moments where she was raised by a family. Like that's all she wanted. She wanted to be raised by her family, and her grandma's still alive no matter what. So it's like, maybe she can reform. You don't know, but there's somebody out there that does love you, and you did have a family at one point, and I like that. And of course, we get what's his name, the robot guy back,
Victor. Yeah,
and
especially considering what happened to him in Vision.
Yeah, I was really disappointed. I'm like, you killed Victor, and they were like, yeah, they killed Victor. I'm like, dude, the Runaways left at such a sad head point because apparently the time traveler dude he got hit by a car, and we didn't know if he survived or not. And it turns out it was that was another timeline or something like that. He keeps jumping through timelines. He goes, listen, I know, like he's like, I had this one fucking last chance. I said, yeah, I took it. I saved Gert. And it was like, and they were like, dude, we've tried this. You know it doesn't work. It's like, save her now. And
It raises questions though why they don't just go back a little bit further and save her a little faster than
I think they need her to know, like, I don't know, because everybody's too traumatized, I guess. But yeah, Old Lace is back and everything else, because it was like the other issue
just in time for the TV series.
Yeah, but the issue was actually, it was really funny. They were planning on getting that into a TV series, and everybody kept begging, "Are you going to redo the Runaways?" And they kept saying no. It was like 4 years, and they always refused, and now they only let us have it back, and they don't even talk about it. It's pretty much another renew your vows. They're like, we'll just do it. But I
love this. It's like, wait, did I just hear lesbians? That's smack so.
Yeah.
I know Nico is bi.
Yeah, Nico's bi, but
Carolina's lesbian.
Lesbian. She's super lesbian.
She's dating Julie Powers.
Yeah, she used to be engaged to a Skrull king, and she's like, and she tells him at one point, like he's like, yo, you know, your dad's and your mom said I can marry you and stuff. It's like, you know, they're evil, right? It's like, yeah, well, that's why you're here. And she's like, look, it's not gonna work out. And she kind of like says really sadly, it's like, I like girls, and he's just like, we're a race that changes gender like all the time, and like he just swaps her gender. Is like, this better. And it was really kind of funny because like she's agreeing to go, and Nico's like, really, Well, you're just gonna leave because she now has a vagina. Is that why? It goes, no, it's like more than that, Nico.
And then she tried kissing Nico, and Nico's like, bad.
That was like the first part of that. They're like, what? And she's like, whoa, I don't know.
And then I think they actually like Nico's a thought.
Yeah, Nico's a total thought. She tried making out with
she dated Alex, and then I think she kissed like everybody on the team.
Yeah, she tried to she liked Alex, and then he was a bad guy.
And then he was in Black Iron. She was in Cage and Power Man and Iron Fist.
Then there was who was the guy, like the guy that stole Chase. Yeah, Chase. She tried making out with Chase when he was dating Gert. That was actually an interesting couple, and I thought that was that actually works because of their attitude dynamic. And I think throughout that series they kind of showed that they were always fighting constantly, and so it was just they kind of revealed its sexual tension or something like that. And
because the plot demands it.
Yeah, but it just kind of worked. It was just the way they did it. It just kind of worked, and it wasn't like too heavily forced, so you enjoyed it. And I think I picked Gert as my favorite because there was that time traveling thing where we find her and she's the new Young Avengers leader or something like that, and her future self. And I'm like, and she has powers or something like that. I'm like, I want to know how she became the new Avengers leader. Like, that is literally the reason I was like, what? What? You're the new Avengers leader? And I wanted to know. We never got it because they killed her off. And I was like, this makes no freaking sense. And then Josh Whedon got the book, and he made a Wild Western story, and I don't understand what was going on by then. But
I think Whedon kind of just went off the rails at one point.
He likes a lot of cowboys. He likes a lot of Outlaw Star stuff and try.
I mean, even Firefly is a sci-fi series. Yeah. Relied a lot on the cowboy shit.
Yeah, and also apparently everybody has pointed out, and I can't unsee it, is Firefly is Outlaw Star. Live action Outlaw Star, like word for word. There are scenes that are word for word.
I think that should be brought into question then, considering integrity of.
And Outlaw Star was a space cowboy with samurai. So
you know what I want a live action Cowboy Bebop.
Oh yeah, everybody does. I think that as well. What's his name? I can't remember people's names anymore. Keanu Reeves has always been kind of picked to play Spike Spiegel, and apparently he is a big fan of Cowboy Bebop, and he said I'd do it. And I think he would be perfect. Actually, you could still.
I know people. There was a rumor going on a little bit yesterday. I know Sean Martineau of Crawl Space posted it in the staff page, but apparently there was a rumor going on that Keanu Reeves was going to be Moon Knight, and I didn't realize I wanted that.
I want that so badly. You want to know what? If they sold the Stark building, and we used to chat about it, like who would buy this building?
Dark Rain.
And I voted. I voted that if we can't have it as the Baxter building, Moon Knight. Because people are like, who's going to take over for Iron Man? It's obviously going to be Riri. It's like, no, because she doesn't sell, and the movies only go for the more iconic people. And look, they're not going to go after Iron Man because they have 5 bajillion other superheroes that are well-known, like She-Hulk in the gang.
I mentioned in that chat thread that I wanted a She-Hulk solo movie.
I do too. Like, I vote the way they could do it is you get Bruce Banner, and he's still being hunted down, and he finds his cousin.
Oh shit! My neck.
Cousin comes to rescue him, and it's her. And she gets shot or attacked during it, and
she gets blued up.
What?
She gets blued up.
Yeah, she gets blowed up, and she's dying. And so he risks it all. He goes to the hospital, and she could still have, like, I know she had a blood illness, and you could still keep that in if needed. But he's been working on a cure for the Hulk or something, and it has to do with like splicing his DNA and stuff. So he gives it to her instead, or something like that. And
something goes wrong.
It keeps her alive. Like it's, I guess it's like he gives her his blood, and like with fusion, like it will alter her DNA. But he thinks
my curse.
He thinks he's got it right, that he can actually just give her what's needed with it. That'll I think in this version, like the movie version, it's supposed to be like the super soldier serum or something, kind of like the Ultimate story, like he was trying to make it. So he thinks he gets it right, and he gives it to her, but it still has reigning side effects, and he gets caught. But it's not by the government; it's by like AIM or something. Like introduce AIM at this point.
Actually, I'd introduce Egghead, or one of his rogues, like the leader.
Yes,
because remember how in the first Hulk movie, they had Samuel Stearns, but they never used him as the leader.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Why don't they just go off of that?
Yeah,
because he's had about 10 years worth of time to build up whatever he needs.
Yeah, so just do something like that. So this villain gets him, and it's either to use the Hulk as a giant weapon or to use Bruce Banner's mind to make more Hulks or something like that. So
Hulk time.
Yeah, so she wakes up and she's got these powers, and like maybe Scarlet like maybe another Avenger like Black Widow, who they had a thing or something like that. Or maybe she finds Betsy Ross or whatever. I don't know. But
where has Betty been anyways?
Yeah. I don't know. They're supposed to be romantic. I don't know, Jack. So
I guess Joss Whedon's shipping takes precedent over established love interests.
Well, you want to know what? Let's bring back established love interests.
I mean, I made a joke in one of my reviews for Pokemon Month when I still did YouTube reviews that Ash and Shaman, when they made up, it was more contrived than Black Widow and Hulk. I used to be really edgy back then.
Who's what Pokemon Shaman again?
The green one that has the flowers. It's like a little like a little Furby.
Damn it, I can't remember.
I'll send you a picture.
Yes, please, because
it had a movie about it.
Oh, it's one of the it's the hedgehog.
Yeah, it's
the little white flowery.
The one that acts like a total cunt.
Oh, I didn't watch that movie, but I do know that he made out with Latias.
Well, it wasn't confirmed whether or not it was Latias or the person she was impersonating.
Oh yeah, but she's like, I'm into this guy. It's like, dude, like Ash, you don't need to be a Pokemon master.
You a player.
You made out with a legendary, and you have seen so many legendaries.
You could get laid on the stories alone.
Yeah, like pretty much like don't make it if you can't be a Pokemon master, like dude, you've been like second place in Pokemon tournaments. That's like some badass shit. Like, you want to know what? Don't be a Pokemon master. Like, I'm sure. Like, just make him a Pokemon master. We'll still continue the stupid adventures.
Just a different character.
Yeah, or you want to retire, make a new character, make it his son or something.
That seems a little too fanficky.
Okay, fine. Usually those help though at times, like as long as it's not like Digimon where they made that season with like where it's like, oh, we're the next Digidestin. You can't be the Digidestin because you're going to college. And look, I have Godmod Digimon that's of legend, and thus I'm better than you, even though I don't know Jack. And I'm just like,
don't cut yourself on that edge.
What is this bullshit? So yeah,
it's a meme. Garugamesh.
So yeah, pretty much I like Pokemon Story better. But yeah, so like all you have to do is really give Ash just swap it to a new character. And in fact, you do video games all the time. You bring in the video game characters, just do that. Just make those player characters become our hero for a bit, and you can bring back Ash once in a while, like, or just make him like want to do another tournament. It's like, hey, Ash, people like this other region, the whatever, the Elite Four of this region kind of wants you to go over there and and go join the tournament because we kind of need more people to join up on the Pokemon League over there, and he'll lose. But you want to know what? He won one of them.
Yeah.
And like he continued doing it because, yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and stop the stream because we kind of derailed. But this,
right, I went into it. In other words, Nick Spencer and Spider-Man.
Optimism from Quilsniv, absolute hatred from a nerd.
Well, it's not as bad as Dan Slott because there is no way you can get any worse than Danny Boy. I mean, you could say,
you could have Peter like actively willingly rape someone, but you know.
Mary Jane get married to somebody else and have a kid. I guess that would be the worst, but you know they won't ever do it because they know she sells. That's the funny thing. They know she sells, but they won't wield her, right? It's so weird.
But yeah, thanks for tuning into the stream, guys. But this was fun. See y'all next stream. I don't know when that will be, but I might do some color theory.